legendary assassin John Wick retired from his violent career after marrying the love of his life. When her death comes suddenly, it leaves John in deep mourning. When mobster Yosef Tarasov and his thugs steal John's prized car and kill the puppy that was the last gift from his dead wife, John unleashes the remorseless killing machine within and seeks vengeance. Meanwhile, Yosef's father, John's former colleague, puts a huge bounty out on John's head. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode we'll be covering 2014's John Wick, directed by Chad Stahelski.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Double Feature, where we are covering 2014's John Wick, very topical, as the fourth chapter is out right now in cinemas. I'm here with my main man, Colin. As always, Colin, what's happening, baby?
Hey, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And we're very happy to be joined by, I guess, longtime producer, but like, I guess, intermittent appearer, podcaster, Danny. What's happening, Danny? What's happening, mate?
You calling me a producer makes it sound so much fancier than it really is, and I really appreciated that and needed that boost today, so thanks.
I mean,
that's perfect.
Let's admit it. That's what producer titles are made for. I mean, like, whenever you see
Jordan
like a name
Schlansky.
like produced by Martin Scorsese, and it's like the most garbage movie ever. Like,
it's like he looked at it and went, all right. And they're like, produced by. It's like, okay, calm down.
Right. Like, I'm pretty sure James Cameron produced like the last few Terminator movies, and it's like, come on.
Yeah,
man.
this guy sneezes on a script, and they're like, produced.
Right.
If you're aware, if any Conan fans are out there are aware of who Jordan Schlansky is, that's like my roles as a producer here. It's like I do various titles and roles and jobs that end up completing and making the show succeed, sort of thing. But it's like
he also gets our coffee for us and schedules diaries and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, bitch.
I just send that coffee up the road to Colin and then halfway around the world to Zoeb anytime they ask for it. It's actually way more doable.
My latte was fucking cold, Danny. It's always cold.
I'm surprised it wasn't like spilled out because it's right side up here, but if it's shipped there, it's upside down. Okay, now we're getting into really weird jokes. Let's keep going.
All right, let's do this. Guys, again, thank you so much for joining us here at Midnight Double Feature. If you don't know who we are, we're going to be covering John Wick. Sequentially, we're going to be breaking it down. We're going to be having a few laughs, hopefully. Very organic, but very forced laughs. But yeah, this is going to be good. I'm excited for this, man. Like, you know, it's kind of crazy that we haven't dived into the world of John Wick yet. You know, it's kind of like we've always been kind of on the cusp of it. Danny, I know you've been a big fan of it for a very long time. We might have mentioned it on another episode that we did. Maybe Casino Royale, I think, you know, when action movies came up and things like that. But before we do dive in, I'm just going to mention the housekeeping stuff. So social media, guys, you check out our show notes. All of our links are there. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And please consider signing up to the Green Room. The Green Room is our membership club. You know, you just pay $5 a month. You don't pay anything else. And you get a whole bunch of bonus episodes. I think we're up to episode 68, which we'll be recording. Yeah, so close to the magic number. Yeah, we'll be recording that after this episode. That's going to be Rise of the Planet of the Apes so fucking title, dude. But no, we're excited for that as well. So we'll be recording that right after this. And yeah, $5 a month gets you a whole bunch of, man, like an insane amount of, I hate the word, but content. You know, it gets you a whole bunch of shit.
There's like movie watch-alongs in there. There's just straight up like the feature presentations. I think the first movie we covered is The Mummy, and that episode's like 4 hours long. So there's a shit ton of content on Patreon.
And to access that, just head to patreon.com/Midnight Double Feature. So there you go. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
No, but we are here for John Wick, a movie that I don't think anyone really kind of expected to sort of spawn 3 sequels, a spin-off film and a spin-off TV series. You know, kind of like gave a a third wind to Keanu Reeves' sort of career.
Yeah.
And kind of like reinvented himself, and gave these guys Chad Stahelski and his sort of like directing partner. I know it's Chad Stahelski that is credited as the sole director, but there's also another director too. His name's David Leitch. They created this company called 87 Below. They used to work with Keanu back in 1999 on The Matrix as stuntman. And Chad Stahelski's been on all 4 of these movies. He's directed all 4 of the John Wick movies, which is kind of like crazy when you think about it.
That's pretty rare.
The only other time I can think of that is Wes Craven maybe doing all of the Screams.
Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson.
Yeah, there you go. 6
like
films in a row.
Though.
Yeah. But see, that wasn't 6 films in a row. Like, he took time off for like King Kong and stuff like that. But like, it's kind of crazy that like a director for so many years, this will be 9 years that he is working in this world exclusively. Whereas like David Leitch has like kind of like rolled off and done movies like Hobbs and Shaw, Atomic Blonde, and Deadpool 2. He's currently in Sydney filming a movie with Ryan Gosling called Fall Guy. I think it's based on an old TV show. But like the press is all over them currently. Like they're all over the Harbour Bridge. They're doing shutting down fucking massive freeways and shit. Like, it's wild.
Being a total pest.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, David. But
thanks for being a leech.
Let's. Right. He's been a leech. Let's get into this. Let's get into John Wick. Danny, you don't join us on the podcast quite often, so you can go ahead and lead your thoughts. What is your history with this franchise? How did you come across this? Are you a big Keanu fan? Because we don't talk about Keanu a lot. We haven't really talked about The Matrix, which we're not going to do today. But I mean, we don't really have a.
I think
we don't
Speed
really have
might
an
be our
access
only
point.
one.
Speed might be our only one, right? And I don't think I was on for that episode.
No, that's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. Good pointing that out.
Danny, go for it.
I like how you called it his third wind. I guess if his first wind was like the Raising Idaho, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, his first
Bill
wind.
And Ted.
Matrix is maybe his second wind, I guess is maybe that what you're calling it. And then this would be his third one. That's an interesting way to pull it. I hadn't thought of that. And it's something you said in the beginning of this is truly the best way to frame it for me. I'm going to relate it to Taken. Taken had the exact same effect on me where it falls into this, like, this action star that has done movies before, coming back and doing just almost one-off at the time film where it kind of explores more, maybe they're more like physical side, not sexually speaking, right? But like just like Liam Neeson running around and like shooting a gun is a little bit different than maybe what we were used to seeing him do before that. And this definitely gave me that same exact feeling whenever I saw the first John Wick. And it's as I ended up like seeing it, and then I rewatched it again a couple weeks ago before we saw chapter 4, and then I rewatched it again this week whenever you guys were discussing us covering it in depth. I wanted to make sure that I like wasn't missing anything. It slowly dawned on me that like I don't know at what point I realized that they were probably going to make a franchise out of this, but it's like I feel like I'm so wrapped up in how unexpectedly the movie is actually doing really well. For compared to like how you think it would be from the advertisements, it was just so low key advertised here. Again, just like Taken. So when I ended up watching it, I loved it. It gave me such a fresh revitalization of the action genre back then. When there was definitely other things coming out, but what I think I can't even think about now. It's almost like I'm so used to thinking about John Wick after the fact that I barely even think about it whenever it was like this unknown entity. You cannot go into any modern action movie now and not see a John Wickness rubbed off on it. Like Atomic Blonde is a little bit of a cheat because that's made from generally the same crew of people, I believe. But that had a very like John Wick feel to it.
The same cinematographer.
Yeah, so of course it's going to look like incredibly similar. But I feel like there is such a John Wickness to every film that comes out now that is trying to keep up with how well they showed action whenever at the time, there's other things like Taken 3 probably coming out where they switch a camera angle 14 times when he jumps over a fence. Like, it's just, it really, really almost wasn't even hard for them to like, it almost seems like Chad Stahelski and the crew was sitting to the side talking to themselves going, we could probably make this like 100 times better. And then finally one day they stood up and they did it. And 4 chapters later now, I'm really happy that they took that dive, that Keanu, I think, was a great face for it. I am horseshit at thinking about like, oh, like what if this person was in it? What if it was an Idris Elba role instead? Like, I love all those people, but I'm just really shit at thinking like who else it could have been. In my brain, man, I just don't see anybody else but Keanu being the person that really brings that rigid, you know, just character to life in such a believable way. And yeah, man, really glad that you brought it for us to cover this. I think I'm going to be able to get into a lot more of the specifics on why I like it as we go through it. But you can't go anywhere without seeing the effects, I think, of the first John Wick movie everywhere else now. And man, really glad that you picked this, man. What about what's your thoughts on that, Zoha?
No, that's completely, that's awesome, man. I love your insight on that, because you're completely correct. You know, as we were talking about with Keanu, sort of like third wind, this really did revitalize the action genre. And when I mean action, I don't mean like superhero action. I mean like hand-to-hand combat action. So like,
right
in the mid 2000s, you had like a big defining moment, which was the Bourne films, right? So Paul Greengrass and his style, which is like the close cut, shaky cam, visceral, in your face, intense action sequences. You know, like that moment in Bourne, I think Supremacy, when someone comes in through a window and like they're getting into it, and it's all, you know, quick cuts and really quick, like there's no music. It's just the sounds of things whipping and whooshing and, you know, punches being thrown. That really had an impact on action cinema. People were really trying to emulate that style. You know, you see that later with like Quantum of Solace, which came out in 2009, and you know, which was a Bond movie that is not very successful, but really tried to kind of like copy that style to not as good of an effect. And then John Wick comes around and it's like, let's pull the camera back. Like, you know, let's step back a little bit and let's open up the frame and let's use wide angles to show you that this is actually Keanu doing most of these stunts. These are actual stuntmen doing a lot of these rolls and kicks and dives and smashing through breakaway glass. And it's really it's awesome, man. Like it's awesome when you see a revitalization in this genre. You know, we talk about the horror genre quite a bit because Colin's a big fan, but like,
oh yeah,
I mean, look, I love horror as well, but I think like, you know, action, the history of action movies as well has kind of like these defining moments of like, you can see when a movie really changed the landscape of action movies. You know, it happened in 1999 with fucking The Matrix, right? Everything was doing bullet time right after that. Everything was doing slow motion, whatever. So, yeah, you can definitely pick out action films and be like, okay, like you can put it out on the timeline and be like, okay, this is what changed that. This is what changed that. Colin, what are your thoughts on John Wick? What's your history with this franchise?
It's okay. No, I enjoyed it. I've never, I don't know anybody named John Wick. I've never seen a John Wick. I'd never seen any of these before, and I knew there were quite a few of them. So there's 4 main movies, and then Ballerina. Is that even out yet?
So Ballerina is a spin-off film starring Ana de Armas, and then The Continental is the TV show that is a prequel about Ian McShane's character.
Oh, cool. Okay. That's not the question I asked you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with you. No,
I'm still stuck at the fact that you haven't seen any of these movies.
Right. Yeah. I haven't. I've never dipped my toe into this universe. And I enjoyed it. I think, it's one of those movies that it's definitely like style over substance. The story is there. It's not, you don't really come to these movies for like, man, I really want like some Shawshank level plot. It's like, well, you're fucking shit out of luck, dude. Cause it's like, it's a fun, like revenge. It's a great excuse. The story is a great excuse to see Keanu like shoot the fuck out of people in like 99 different ways, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And like, I am not, a big action movie guy. I like Terminator 1, Terminator 2. I need like the sci-fi with my action, like, because watching just action movies is it's a little boring to me just because they all kind of like follow
so much.
I know.
I hate you so much.
But like Aliens, love it. I love Aliens. Like that's a fantastic like action movie. Terminator 2. Like I need another element on top of all of that. Like I'm so desensitized to violence that I need like I need like something else sprinkled on top of it for it to be like fun. So I enjoyed this. I definitely did. I think like it's obviously just stacked with talent, unbelievable cast, just right off the rip. R.I.P. Lance Reddick. Obviously,
man,
right? Just God, I think they said I can't remember. I might be misquoting. I think Keanu said something about that they got all the stuff filmed for his next project. I can't remember. I'm probably misremembering that, but I know Danny is a big Destiny 2 player, and Lance Reddick was in that, and he's a big part of that community. And they had a vigil for him. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Commander
did they ever say
Zavala.
what? Yeah. Did they ever say what his cause of death was?
I'm trying to find it now. Give me a sec. Just keep vamping.
No. Yeah, you're good. No, that's a bummer. Anyways, no, can that Zoe? Don't pull that up, Jamie.
It's in dispute.
Okay, gotcha.
They're saying it is heart disease at the age of 60, but apparently it's being disputed by the family. So I don't know.
Well, regardless, rest in peace to the legend Lance Reddick.
A legend,
so many
man.
great roles, man.
One of the biggest like that guys in Hollywood. I think.
I think this is the first thing I'd ever seen him in. To be
interesting.
Completely honest, like, but
you haven't seen in a while. Yeah.
Right. I thoroughly enjoyed the brief, time he's in it. He's a great anchor into that the management world. He's a great window into that. But I enjoyed it. I think, again, just the talent behind even the guy who plays Vigo's kind of like right-hand guy is from like Law and Order, and he's like the Allstate, he's like the Allstate guy. He's in a bunch of stuff.
The Vulture.
But, yeah. I love the soundtrack to it. And I like the fact that it is like my favorite thing about this movie is how fucking like funny it is. It has a great, for an action movie, it has an incredible sense of humor. Like getting to the last bullet and then just being like, hey, hang on real quick, and then reloading and shooting the guy. I laughed so fucking hard.
Dude.
And just the little
they
moments.
really run with that in the sequels. Like, for example, like there's I'm not spoiling anything, but in chapter 2, he's got a shotgun and he runs out of ammo, so he holds the guy down with the barrel of the shotgun while he reloads it. And then once he's done reloading it, he just shoots him. It's just, oh, man.
That's hilarious. But I think it's got a great sense of humor. I think it's got some really funny moments. The one that also had me laugh out loud was his exchange with the cop. He's like, hello, John. He's like, hi, Jimmy. And he's like, blah, blah, you hanging out? Blah, blah. Oh, okay, cool. Well, take care, John. You too, Jimmy. And he just shuts the door. And like something about
you working again, John?
Yeah, it was their conversation that it was so just like the fact that there's 12 dead men in his house was just like, yeah, you painting again? It's like no big deal. It was great. I think this movie has an incredible sense of humor, and I think the cinematography can't be fucked with. The shots where there's a particular shot of him. I think it might be in the nightclub where he's got like the baby blue coloring on one side and then the hot pink like on the other. And I was like, that's just incredible. That looks amazing. John Leguizamo, like there's just so many people that pop up in this. So this was fun. Defoe. Defoe. I definitely wouldn't mind checking out the next ones, but I'm not like, I want to watch that like right away, but I think that it's, especially how old was Keanu when he was making this movie? Because he's
nearly 60 now.
So he's probably early mid 50s.
So he was born 1964. So he was 50. exactly.
Yeah, 50. Okay, I was going to say. I mean, even still 50 years old to be moving like that. I would like to see any of us do that now.
Right.
So kudos to him. And this was a fun pick. I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you said, that you needed another sort of like element to be able to enjoy like a straight up sort of like guns and fighting action films.
Mhm.
I would argue that this has it though. This has an extra layer of like fantasy, I guess, with
Yeah, the
the
mystique
underground
and stuff. That was another one of my favorite parts of this. Was just like, hook that shit into my. I want to know who is the management. I want to talk to the manager now.
I think
like,
that demand and that feeling, I think, stretched out over 4 movies now is what it made everybody else be like, we have to have a TV show showing us like how this originated. So yeah, that's right up your neck of the woods. I feel
all
like
I can say to you, Colin, is if you like that element, you will love the sequels. They
Cool.
absolutely run with like the underground stuff without kind of like without kind of like running
beating
it
to a dead
sort of
horse.
Thing. Yeah, absolutely.
It always like
really
reveals
well.
enough to keep it interesting, but not so much where you just understand all the Continental all at once. Maybe is.
I'd argue 3 is the one that goes a little maybe too much into it. I don't love 3. It's still an incredible. All of these movies, by the way, are really fucking good. 4 is an absolute knockout. 4 might be all of the shit that you're hearing about 4 being like compared to Mad Max Fury Road and stuff like that as like a defining action film, a cinematic achievement, whatever. It is for me, in my opinion. It absolutely is. I'm trying not to be like, I'm trying not to do like a recency bias kind of thing, but like I've seen that movie twice now, and I can't fault it for anything. It runs at 2 hours 45 or something like that, and it
doesn't feel like it. Does not feel like it. Yeah, I agree. You're not overhyping it. If anything, you're not overhyping it, dude. That's all I feel like I can say. And out of the gate, I think I'm not sure if we even said this, but like we're clearly going to probably be spoiling chapters 2 and maybe 3 and maybe 4, or what? Where are we stopping? Because
I think we stop at 3. We don't go into 4 because 4 has. Because Colin, I really do want you to watch at least 2 and 4. Because 3 is good, like I said. But
I mean, you're going to be lost if you don't watch 3, but what Zohab's saying is like it's almost like the Star Wars like original trilogy. It's like all 3 of them are really, really good, but whenever you do sit down and talk to people, there's always people that are like, no, there's a standout better one between all of them. And honestly, the third one just really feels like the porridge almost of all of the John Wick movies in terms of all of it culminating together, but still worth it. I love how you pointed out 2 and 4 though. Really, and just the fact that the sequels didn't disappoint. Like they just kept getting better and better, which is such a rare feat.
2 was my favorite before 4 came out. I loved 2. Absolutely loved it.
2's still my favorite, I think.
Okay, all right. The thing is, like, everything kind of takes place within the span of 2 weeks. The entire franchise takes place within the span of like 2 weeks, which is kind of crazy.
Damn.
And what I like about this series is that this one is the most, I guess, quaint of all of them, right? I mean, like, the body count is, while still incredibly high for this franchise, it's pretty low, right? It's pretty modest, but it still feels like some kind of like fucked up adult sort of like fairy tale bedtime story. You know what I mean? Like it feels like a fable. Like this guy who was scorned and lost something so incredibly important for him, incredibly important to him, sought out revenge. And as Winston says in this movie, if you go back into that world, something's going to grab you and pull you back down. And it feels so fantastical. That's the way I like to think about these movies. 4 goes into some really kind of like fantasy-esque territory in terms of just like, man, this guy is just beating ass, man. Like he is crushing it, like, and it's like, okay, you need to realize that you're not watching something incredibly realistic, right? Like this is not I don't know what to compare it to. This is not Die Hard, right? Like this is not someone where
Right.
glass gets on his feet and he's out of the game. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it's like a hyper fast kind of reality.
Yeah. Well, I still love that, John Wick does sustain injuries. Like, you need to realize that in the sequels, there are suits that are lined with Kevlar. And I'm not talking like they have Kevlar underneath them. They are literally stitched in to the fabric and they can like block bullets by just bringing up their suits. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of world that we're living in. And I think that's important for a viewer to realize, like, this movie, John Wick, the first one, is so incredibly quaint, and then it's such a great jumping off point into the sequels. I love this movie. I have come to love this movie. I did not like this movie when I was younger, when it came out. In fact, a running memory that I have with a friend of mine was that this came out while we were working at Hoyt's, the cinema chain. And Keanu was not he had not undergone this revival that he's going through now. He had gone through so many movies and failures and 47 Ronin, like that movie that he directed, Knock Knock, like all of these movies were just like garbage. And my friend and I were like, all right, it's a Sunday, we got nothing to do, let's go watch this movie, it's probably going to be dog shit. And we walked out 15 minutes in. I'm not even kidding. We walked out of this movie 15 minutes in. Before
any of the action scenes take.
Right.
It takes like 30 minutes for that to happen.
Right. There's a lot of setup, and we were just both just like, this is fucking boring. Let's fucking go. Like, we didn't know that awaiting us on the other side was this, and we were like 21, 20 years old, and we were just like, fuck this movie. So we left, and then it wasn't until many years later, until Colin LSG covered it, that I revisited.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, this is... this is something else. This is insanity. And now I've come to love it. I really have.
Let's go.
Yeah, man. Like it's just a good time. This one especially is so tight at an hour and 40 minutes. Like there's no
dude. I was extremely surprised when I saw the run, and I was like, thank God, thank fucking God. Like. Good Lord, your last like 7 picks have been like 2.5. I'm like, God fucking damn it, man. Like,
what did we cover last time? What did we
Man from Earth?
The extended version of Return of the King.
You know what? The Man from Earth has got 100 downloads.
It has 100
weeks.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
I didn't even think it was going to get that many, honestly. But hey,
God,
the people love it. No, do they though? I'm like stealing people's phones and making them download it. I'll give you this back. You have to download my podcast.
That's half of my time at my producer role.
Yeah, just tracking people down. You tackling people on the street and like doing it real quick to their phone and running off.
My neighbors listen to more episodes than I have, and I don't even talk to my neighbor.
So yeah, man, but like everyone working behind the scenes in this movie, Tyler Bates, the music in this movie is incredible. Like just the industrial drums, guitar, whatever. The cinematography, Jonathan Seller, but like also, so Derek Kolstad wrote this movie. He wrote the second one. He wrote the third one. He didn't write the fourth one, but he was the kind of one who really, this is his brainchild. So he wrote this script. He had a bunch of failures, whatever. And then this is the one that he kind of like went to the studio with, and he's like, all right, can we do this? The studio bought it. There's a lot of history around this. And then Keanu came on board. Keanu recommended these guys that he worked with on The Matrix, and they came on board, and essentially the script had to be like written down to fit Keanu. So it was much more dialogue heavy, especially the scene where with the priest, right? When he walks in and he kneecaps the priest. Like apparently there's like a 7-page script at that point, and there's a big speech, and it was just changed to like which is incredible, which is an amazing moment. It's like, all right, man, like That's so perfect. I think I read like on the fourth film, Keanu's only got like 370 words of dialogue, and it's
Something
just
like that.
it's
very
perfect.
low.
It's perfect. Like, I love it feels very like old school Clint Eastwood, The Man with No Name, kind of like silent, like
Actions speak
let's
louder
get
than
shit
words.
done.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, I love this series. I love this movie. Michael Nyqvist is the villain. He plays Vigo. He's passed away. He was also one of the villains in. He was also the villain in Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a solid film, man. Let's get into this.
Let's go. Boom.
So we kind of like start sort of like in media res, where it's like the story's already sort of started. It's like a flash forward sort of moment. It's this voiceover of the weather, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? What's going on here? It's a crashed car. Keanu's like hobbling out, and like he's looking at his phone, and it's this memory of him and his wife on the beach, right? His wife, Helen, played by Bridget Moynahan, Tom Brady's ex-wife, ex-girlfriend.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. They have a baby together. I looked that up. She was in iRobot. That's what I know her from. Fun fact for you, Patriots fans.
It's like Colin and I are the Americans, and you think that we'd be like, football, come on, Pat. But we're just like, we don't watch TMZ. I don't know who he's married to.
We all know you're subscribed to People magazine, so don't lie.
Sports Illustrated, man. Swimsuit editions.
Yeah,
that's where I get it. But this is kind of like Keanu sort of like starting his day. John starting his day, rather. He's kind of gone through this big loss. I just like the sound design, like as he's trying to pick himself up in the mornings, and he's thinking about Helen, and it's this really quick moment of her kind of like collapsing, and you don't really need much more than that, right? I mean, like he's at the hospital, right. And then like, again, just this movie, actions speak louder than words, as you said, Danny. Like
the dog and the wife collectively have hyper low screen time in the whole steam of
right.
Really, all of these movies, right? And Izoa was just alluding to and pointing out, like, you don't need all of this. You don't need Keanu going to every single meeting to see if she's going to get better. We don't like it, even the process of her really truly passing away in that movie is that scene's really even cut super short. It's just him being in the hospital room whenever they pull the plug, and then you're basically burying her. And it wasn't this massive thing, and the entire franchise is built on really that and one other aspect of his.
This is the foundation.
His emotion.
This is the foundation. Yeah. We get this funeral moment, and he meets Marcus, played by obviously Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe just absolutely elevates
Spider-Man.
anything, is it? Right. Oh man, he's so good. He's so
sleep
good.
Yet,
just
John?
He is.
No. All right, just checking. Strikes a match on his face.
There's your Family Guy reference. One per episode.
One per episode, baby. One per episode. Seth MacFarlane, where you at, baby? But yeah, so he's kind of like checking up on John. He says, don't blame yourself. I'm checking up on an old friend. You kind of like get the sense that they've known each other for quite a while, right? There's some kind of history there. John goes home. It's kind of like this sort of like post-funeral sort of like gathering, things that you have, like whatever. People bring around casserole dishes and,
right.
Disposable
plates
prayers. And such.
Right. Exactly. And then he gets a delivery in the middle of the night, by the way, which he doesn't. Okay, he signs for it without even like looking down at it. He's just like, what kind of game are you playing here, John? Like, this is playing with fire.
I had a discussion with my wife. I was thinking, like, I know that there's animal delivery services, but I mean, there's just so many. I don't know. I'm overthinking it, but it's like, what if he wasn't there? Like, I mean, like, what if he got I don't know. Just so many crazy things to think about with like shipping a dog. Just always that part was always really funky to me. It's the only thing in this whole thing. I don't know. Not the only thing, but in the grand scheme of all this coming together, how the dog gets to him it's blink and you miss it, and maybe that's better. But when you rewatch the film, you're like, what kind of delivery fucking job is that?
Yeah. Wakes up, the dog's already in his bed. He's like, I serviced it, God damn it.
They just broke in the middle of the night and just left the dog there.
The dog's in pajamas with like a silky nightcap.
You want some coffee? I'm making some midnight coffee. No, but to Zoha's point, yeah, the dog is very almost unceremoniously dropped off in a sense.
Right, but it's so... this premise is so simple, yet like... Now, if I was to like walk up to someone on the street and say, hey, tell me a movie... Sorry, I'm going to describe a movie to you very poorly, and you can tell me the title. I can just walk up to them and say, bully kills dog, man goes on revenge, right? That's all I can say. They'll say, oh, that's John Wick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so simple, yet incredibly effective, and like, it spawned memes, and like, anytime like now you hear a story of like animal cruelty, someone posts a photo of like John Wick, like, exactly.
Yeah, loading a gun or something. Yeah.
Right. Michael Vick, for example. Yeah.
Prick.
Right. So this is the dog. What breed is this? Is this a beagle?
Looks like
I think
a beagle,
so.
but I don't know. I'm
Incredibly
sure somebody
adorable.
watching this is like, it's technically a mix between a beagle and like 4 other things. And it's like, cool for
I hate
you,
those
dude.
kinds of people, dude. Hate those kinds of people.
Go get them tested and then post it online, and then we'll read it. Otherwise, it just looks like a dog.
Show me the ancestry.com of this dog, please.
It's a beagle corgi, and they just call it a kegel.
And we don't want the dog haters coming after us either, because I think, I'm not sure about Zoha, but I'm pretty sure Colin and I are very loving dog fathers. It's just like, to Zoha's point, it's like...
I will be eventually.
Nice.
Steph,
but like,
yeah, there's no negotiation.
When people are like, yeah, it's a mix between like 4 things, I'm like, man, I just want to pet your dog and be around it. Like, that's cool, but I'm not going to remember
what kind of dog do you have?
Just told me.
He's yellow.
Actually, last weekend, I was looking after a friend's place. Like, they kind of like, we were house sitting, and they went up to Queensland, and they have a little a cross between a Jack Russell and a Chihuahua, and it's really adorable because I don't like Chihuahuas, but I like Jack Russells.
Oh yes, and, the Char Russell.
right, exactly. Yeah, right. The Chihuahua.
Russ.
Right. But this, so a lot of people kind of like get it twisted, right? Like, if you were to say, oh, John Wick is about a guy, like, people kind of dismiss it in terms of like, this guy went on an entire killing spree all because of a dog, but that's not really it, right? It's what this dog represents, right? It's like his, as he says later, this is the last thing I had connecting me to my wife.
Yeah. It was going to be the thing that gave him peace and to be able to stay in that life, retired and untouched, right? And yeah, it's almost worse than just the dog just naturally passing away. It's just that was just so brutally taken immediately from him.
Right.
I think it's just the fuel to the fire that makes him go downstairs later with a fucking jackhammer and revitalize and like reboot his old life. It's not out of like interest. It's like out of just complete, he's just driven there by the tragic loss of, I love how Zoe said it. It's not even really the dog. And that's not trying to be insensitive. It's what it represented, the feeling of him not being able to relax anymore.
Right.
Also, I love how kind of like disarming it is. Like, John is this like tall, strapping guy, long hair, whatever. He's so brooding. And then in comes this like really adorable little dog. And it's just like, it's these like two like opposite things that shouldn't be together. But then the dog starts rubbing off on him, and he starts, like he wakes up with it, and the way he feeds it, he's like, I'll get you some kibble later, and
gives him some cereal and milk. I mean, things you'd never give a dog.
Right.
You're gonna be cleaning up.
He gives it chocolate, like, just here you go.
I'm telling you right
Here's some
now,
antifreeze.
That is like a poop sprinkler waiting to go off in your house. So
that's yes. I was immediately like, you gave a dog milk.
Good luck.
Like, that's crazy.
The cleaning crew that he pays later with the gold coins to clean up the dead bodies. There's an unreleased scene where they're cleaning up after like the first few days of
we'll
dog.
talk about that cleaning crew because I got some shit to say about that.
Okay,
but like, yeah. So, but again, I love the sound design. I've always loved that sound design of like just the sound of like the dog eating from the bowl. It's so adorable. John's 69 Mustang, absolutely beautiful car. God damn, man. God damn.
Is that the same car from Gone in 60 Seconds? The Shelby GT 500?
No.
Okay, never mind. It looks so much like it to me. I'm not a car guy. So
if you hadn't said Shelby GT 500, I would never have remembered what's in that movie because I have scrubbed that movie from my mind, sir. Except for Memphis Reigns. Yeah,
except for Memphis Reigns. That car is beautiful, though.
That car is absolutely gorgeous. But I mean, like, that's also one of the things that kicks this whole thing off, right? Because here he is at the what do you guys don't say petrol station, do you? You guys say what, gas station?
Yeah.
Right. So he's at the gas station. And in comes Yosef Tarasov, right, played by Alfie Allen. Game of Thrones fans would know him as Theon Greyjoy. So if I refer to him as Theon, sorry, but I'll try and say Yosef.
We called him Theon throughout the whole movie.
Right. One of the other guys, he's sort of like one of his goons, the one who kind of like pushes Theon away, and he says, "You have a good day," and he like kind of taps on his door. That guy's an Australian actor. His name is Toby Leonard Moore. He's been in quite a few things, actually. He was in a very popular show here called Underbelly. But like he was also in Daredevil, the Netflix one. He played Wesley, which is kind of like Wilson Fisk's sort of like number 2. And he's just really memorable, and it was really surprising to see him pop up in this. But yeah, like obviously the Russian accents are very put on, but yeah, so this is our kind of like first sort of like situation with Yosef. And this is the thing that kind of like sparks it, right? Because, you know, Theon, sorry, I'm already doing it. Yosef is you get the sense that he's like some spoiled rich kid brat, right? Who's got a mafioso father.
He's tapping his hands on the hood as he's talking to him.
Right,
you know, his buddies are the ones driving him around. Yeah.
He's never been told no. That's his whole thing. And then like his question isn't, is the car for sale? It's how much is it? Like he just assumes that everything can be bought. And John just straight up says, no, it's not for sale, man. Like this thing has sentimental value. I'm not going to give it to you. And then he speaks Russian to him, and John knows exactly what he's saying and speaks Russian back. And that starts a whole thing. That kicks off this entire thing, right? Which goes down to the high table, which we find out later in the sequels, and the marquee, and yeah, it's crazy that this kicked this off. But yeah, what do you think about this scene, Colin? This kind of like moment between
honestly, I think even if John had been like, yeah, sure, I'll take, $100,000 for the car right now, they'd be like, cool, and then they just shoot him in the back of the head, probably. Like there's no way. And I looked at, this is a 69. The one from Gone in 60 Seconds is a 67 Mustang. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're super close. And so I was like, dude, I thought that was the same car. They look eerily similar. But I like the first kind of meeting with them. It seems just like, is it that the kid is just such a shrimp dick that he can't handle rejection? So he like goes, is it just the spoiled brat that got told no and just will take whatever? Or is it like, are they actually making money off of this car? Like, what is it, and why leave the fucking guy alive? That makes no sense. Like, why do you leave him alive? That's so, I mean, I get it. You don't know who he is, but for fuck's sake, man, you have a living witness. Like, get the fuck out of here.
So, sort of like the, if you don't kill him, he ain't going to learn nothing approach to it, maybe.
Right.
But also, this wouldn't have been a movie if
loose
they would have killed him
shit.
20 minutes in, so,
Yeah, right.
So yeah, like as you said, they break in, they beat John, he's kind of like taken off guard, and they stomp on the dog. And yeah, man, this is tough. This is This was a tough moment for me to watch. This is when Steph turned the movie off as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
seeing a little
Yeah.
puppy getting even
Yeah.
fictionally killed is just fucked up, man.
Well, I want to talk about Keanu here because he's actually really good. As we kind of like zoom in on like the dog and Keanu, you kind of like see John try and like put his hand up to grab onto the dog, but like he kind of retracts his hand really quickly, and it's like, man, he just touched something stiff and cold, and it's like that instant like feeling of like that's a corpse now, like that's no
Mhm.
longer a dog. It's so well done. Just that little touch of like, oh man, like that is harsh. And then hard cut to him burying the dog out the back, which is wild.
Yeah, there's something about John Wick that's kind of like he's like the good Anton Chigurh. Like he's just this unstoppable kind of like it doesn't matter where you go. It's a matter of principle. It's not a matter of money. He can't be persuaded. He can't be bought or reasoned with. Like it once he's made up his mind, it's going to happen. Like regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's just a in the Dark Knight when the Joker explains, oh yeah, it's like a immovable object meets an unstoppable
Right,
force.
right.
He's both of those things. So cut to the next morning, John's scrubbing his house, and then he goes to go see John Leguizamo, right? Sid the
Our
Sloth,
boy.
as it
Love
was.
Leguizamo.
He's so good. He
Or,
disappears after the second film, which is kind of strange.
Bummer.
Yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
know if they really have much of a. I don't guess they have much of a purpose for his character in the other ones. He owns a chop shop, and it's like in New York, so I don't know.
He's
It
basically
doesn't really
a
just go much
cameo in
farther
this.
than
Yeah.
that. I could
Maybe
think of.
Lawrence Fishburne ate him. Jesus.
Yeah, I love he pops up in so much. Spawn, Violent Night, Romeo and Juliet, like John Wick. His career is just so Chef. He's all over the place, man. The guy just doesn't stop.
Right.
So
Um,
can we credit him for something that the very first 30 minutes of this entire franchise does is it builds up the mythos that I think Zohab was also referring to earlier in the fairy tale sense esque that he is the boogeyman.
mhm.
And John's role here, and not John Wick, but John Leguizamo's, I'm probably not saying that perfectly correctly.
That's
the
right.
way that he sells being so terrified about what he pieces so much together in his brain just by seeing a car and John not with it. And the fact that Yosef comes in doing everything. I mean, by the end of the scene, he's making Yosef hold the gun up to his own head saying, go ahead and do it. Like, you really don't know what you've gotten yourself into. Like, you putting a bullet to my head right now this is literally the least of my concerns, considering
That's what
the phone call I'm about to have to make,
I wanted to, I did want to mention that. Like, this movie does such a good job of building up John Wick, right? Like, you hear from like third party sources as to how dangerous this man is, right? I mean, like, even when we do meet Vigo later, Vigo is visibly shaken that his son has wronged John Wick out of all people.
Right.
And you're building up this legend, you're hyping up this guy. And if you're the writer or if you're the director, you need to be damn well sure that you pay that off. And I think they do. Like they really kind of like hit home like the fact that he is the boogeyman, because he is, when he's in the shadows in the club and he's like just going after those guys, I'm just like, yeah, this guy is a force of nature, as you said, Colin.
Mm-hmm. I didn't love at first it was so much hype that I was like, okay, you really have to really fucking pay this, because you're setting this guy up to be like, Chuck Norris checks his closet for the boogeyman checks his closet for John Wick. It's like you're setting him up to be this like fabled kind of character.
Do you think you would still feel that way if you wouldn't have known that there was 3 more movies? Like, imagine if you were seeing this when you just thought that this was a random movie being in the theaters without any kind of hype or longevity or plans for it. And this was just a standalone movie. I think I don't know. Do you think that could have made an impact on you if you would have seen this maybe like, Jesus, it's almost been
No.
10. How long have they been making these now?
Right.
9
yeah.
years.
Jesus.
No,
Yeah, it's almost
because
10
it's
years
like,
ago.
I feel like it's a lot of show don't tell, and there's just a lot of telling. Like at the beginning of it, I was like, okay, like it's one of the reasons I hate like Steven Seagal movies, because they're just like, he's the most badass, and they just hype and hype and hype and hype. But like the 180 opposite of a Steven Seagal movie, this actually sets it up and pays it off well. You know.
Right. The first bullet isn't actually fired till 29 minutes in. Like, like
Damn.
we are, for a franchise that is now known for just excess, right? Excess violence, excess action. This one is incredibly patient in terms of like hyping him up and then, releasing. Sorry, Danny, were you about to say something?
I never used to think about how much runtime it was until a significant shift in the story, until we started doing this podcast forever ago. And now it's like, I look at that as a basis. Now sometimes I'm like, all right. A third of this movie is set up for 4 movies later worth of just almost nonstop action sometimes.
Right.
It's interesting to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So Leguizamo's character calls... what is Leguizamo's character's name again? I don't have it with me.
Can't remember.
Buddy? I don't know. It's not Buddy. I'm just making that up.
Buddy. Sid the Sloth. Let's call him Sid.
Hey, champ.
Aurelio?
Aurelio. There you go. He owns a chop shop. So he calls Vigo, right? And he's like, yeah, so your son stole a car. It was John Wick's car. Dude, Vigo's reaction, oh.
I remember everybody in
man.
the movie, like, that was when it was like, oh shit. Like, almost one of the first times in the movie you almost think to even laugh, because you're like, no, like, the mob boss didn't even want to like give this crazy juxtaposition or give a kill order. He just, like everybody else up to this point, when you hear about the story, you have to just start connecting all the pieces of what that actually really truly means, and not just somebody randomly got killed or someone's dog randomly just got beat up and their car got stolen. It's just tremendously more involved than that.
In this one reaction, it's a huge sense of respect and fear on the part of Vigo, like towards John. It's like, oh shit,
right?
Like,
Well said.
So Vigo and Yosef have this sort of like moment. Yosef kind of like went to where did he go? He kind of like completed a task for Vigo, like pretty much to take out these guys, and Vigo starts beating him up. And Yosef is like, oh shit, did I fuck up at that job? He's like, man, I left no one alive. And then Vigo's like, no, this is about the car. To which Yosef is like, no, hold on, it was just a fucking car. What's that gonna do with it? And this is when we kind of get into the Baba Yaga of it all, right? Like, this is kind of like when we get this, the boogeyman. John is a man of tremendous focus. I love the fact that they mentioned that of focus. Like, he's got nothing else to really think about anymore. It's just vengeance. Like, there's nothing else in his life to distract him from this task now. And as he's explaining this, we get shots of John just like breaking into his sort of like basement with this sledgehammer, and this is awesome. It's a nice little sort of like montaging moment. He's kind of like his consigliere, like for lack of a better term, is always just like English Vigo. Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole movie,
I like him.
It would have just been easier for him to have learned Russian, or gotten a Russian lapdog. But yeah, it's a great joke throughout the whole thing. What were you going to say, Colin?
Oh, no, that's the guy I was talking about, the Allstate guy. The one from Law & Order, like the early seasons of Law & Order.
I call him the Vulture because we see him all the time in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and that's where he pops up as a really great character throughout that show.
Oh, yeah, he is the Vulture. What little I've seen of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I know that. Yeah, okay.
Good, one of the better reoccurring characters in that. I mean, they're all really good reoccurring characters if you've ever seen that show. But I love that you even brought that up, because you really start to think about the cast list, and what a weird group of people. I mean, don't think about Keanu Reeves in the beginning of this, but John Leguizamo, I'm still fucking that up. I've seen him forever now. And then
Lasagna, Lasagna.
John Lasagna, there we go. Willem Dafoe, right? Another really weird, like, it truly feels like a random group of people that came together to make this.
But if you look at the sequels, like they have their own sort of like
the Matrix clique. I mean, let's be honest, it's like, the Matrix clique from that point on.
The return of Morpheus, but then like also this latest one with, goddamn, what's Ip Man's name again?
Donnie Yen,
the blind guy. Yeah, Donnie Yen. Yeah, but anyway, look, so this is just incredibly awesome, right? Like, I mean, like, Colin, what were you thinking when, like, he digs up the basement, and there's all these, like, gold coins? Like, did you know about this sort of, like,
glad you asked that.
No. The first time I saw it, I was like, I guess that's just gold. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I like the fact that he kind of keeps this stuff buried down here, because it's like, if you were really done with the life, why do you have the stuff buried under your fucking house? You know, it's kind of like you held on to this because you knew at some point you were probably going to re-enter this place.
Oh, the second one actually answers this.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he without spoiling it, he has a debt that needs to be repaid, and he knows it's coming. Like, he knows it's going to be called upon eventually.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, Tarasov calls John. Again, I love the way this is handled, right? John doesn't even say hello. He just picks it up. Tarasov knows.
Yeah.
Tarasov knows it's him on the other end.
Let's note that in order for him to contact him, it wasn't him pulling up his iPhone. It wasn't him Googling his number. It wasn't him asking his assistant. Vigo goes to a dire days safe with several other of those coins, which I love that hint that you get to see the coins in different settings in two areas, because it kind of does have a little bit of continental world building just by showing you those cheesy little gold coins. Building up to Vigo, just having that phone call with him and having to manually search through a phone book to find these contacts, because it's almost like that's the era that John Wick almost came from. It also doesn't seem so weird when you later see things from the Continental, where it's a very classic, like, phone operator, switchboard style typewriter, faxing out and paging the contract to people sort of way. You're like, oh, well, like, him having a notebook of all these people's phone numbers is almost one of the more continental-y things that you see in this, but also still very funny. I'm
glad you mentioned that.
The lack of conversation, but yeah, keep going.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's just those little things that really sort of like build out the world and really makes it more believable that they are kind of like operating in this sort of like ancient Roman-esque sort of like
tap the pipe 3 times sort of thing, but then you get led into this beautiful modern casino. It's like very, very like archaic when it needs to look archaic to be disguised and get by with it, but very ultra slim and sleek on the surface when you meet it.
Absolutely. So John hangs up on Tarasov mid-sentence, and here's what I love about Vigo and why he's doing this. He doesn't want to send guys to John's house and get into this conflict with John. He's only doing this because it's his duty as a father, like because of the fact that Yosef is his flesh and blood, and he's been wronged, and now John is coming after Yosef. He's only doing this out of duty. Like he's not doing this because of his desire to kill John. This is something that he needs to do because he is Yosef, just because he is Yosef's father. That's it. What did you think about that, Danny? Like, just the fact that he's very hesitant to engage with John.
It stems from the fear that has been being brought up the first whole 30 minutes of this movie, like we talked about earlier. But I didn't even really think about it until you brought that up. It is interesting. It is more of a sense of duty. And now that I'm thinking about it, his like stress and you can tell just the deep groans and like the 1,000-yard stares in his eyes, where it's like he's just thinking about having to go through all the motions here. Now that you say it's out of duty, considering how much he knows about John Wick's past, he basically, what a good way to think about that. He almost knows that all of the things that he's going to send after John is not going to work, and this is just going to be a long, drawn out process. Probably, I mean, maybe he even realizes this out of the gate, but really until his son gets killed, really until John gets what he is after, it really is him having to understand and make all of these like almost pointless phone calls, right? Because it's all going to lead up to, it's really just like putting a bunch of sand up on the beach, hoping to build up a dam, but then the water's just going to keep knocking it down. You need to actually put something like concrete up. And it's like, you see Vigo having to just push the sand up to the beach every time, waiting on John to finally just knock it down and take his son to sea. So, great. Yeah. I love that you pointed that out. I'm not sure I would have really thought of Vigo's like, all right, what's next in the playbook sort of like approach to having to deal with this.
Well, you definitely see it right after he dispatches these guys, right? Because Vigo's consigliere like gives him the news like, oh, hey, yeah, John fucked these guys up. And Vigo's reaction is, of course he did. Of course that happened.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like you don't need a crystal ball to read what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, this is the franchise's first sort of like action sequence. And this is a great sort of introduction to the kind of choreography and fighting style and martial arts that we're really sort of like going to be watching over the course of these movies. And like I said, it's that really sort of like pulled back camera. Like you can see every hit, you can see every stagger. Even just the way like some things are like framed, like the shot of like John on one side of the wall and I guess a soldier on the other side of the wall, and then in that one shot you get John kind of like sort of crouching and shooting up, and yeah, it's incredibly brutal, but really gorgeous to see. And then obviously the crescendo, the crescendo of like the knife into the guy with the music coming.
Oh, that was
very
brutal,
slowly.
dude. The fact that he hits it just enough to get it to penetrate the guy's chest, and then it's like he's putting like a chisel in and just hitting it with that mallet.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He just really needed to get that one poke in for that guy to just lose all defenses of stopping the knife from going in, and that was all it took. And it's brutal to see it barely clip in the first time and then go deeper basically and stay in the second and third, fourth, whatever time.
Absolutely. But what I get out of this action scene is how in control Wick is. Like he seems very... he doesn't seem panicked at any moment. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's so routine, and it's so, I've been in this situation 100 times before. Yes, balance, absolutely. But the word I keep coming back to is control.
Right. I think so much about this is just what you see him do very efficiently is he's just spinning plates. So like he spins this plate, shoots a guy in the leg, and that plate is spinning. And he turns to this plate, and then when the first plate starts to wobble, that's when he turns back. Like that is the John Wick 2-piece special. Is the like let's cripple this guy, but then let's turn to this guy and fuck him up, and then go back to the first thing, which is interesting. I think that's very that happens a lot. It's never really boring, but once you kind of figure out the formula, you're like, oh, okay, I see what he's doing. Like he's not going for kill, 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 kill. It's bang, bang, bang. Like let's just disrupt everything,
Well, so again, not spoiling it, but in the sequels, the people that he's fighting, sort of like the goons, as you want to call them, they get smarter, right? So like they end up having some sort of like body armor and stuff like that. And they can't, obviously the body armor can't be penetrated by bullets. So what he does is he uses the bullets and the body armor to kind of stagger them, and then like turn to someone else and stagger them, and then kind of like advance on the first person to go in for a closer kill while they're staggered. And it's like the movement is balletic. Like it feels like a dance, but again, just incredibly gorgeous to witness. Yeah. I love all of this. I love this so much. And also the fact that he reloads. The quick reloads is beautiful. Like just the way he flicks his gun, the magazine comes out, and then he just like shoves another one in, and he's going again, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, in a genre where bullets usually are endless, or you just don't even really think about keeping track of them, or they don't put a big effort into a reload scene. It's just a lot of shooting, and then there's so much juxtaposition or camera changes that by the time you come back, you have to assume. It's like really every gun is accounted for in these scenes, and I'm not a gun expert. I'm not like, oh, that really has 12 rounds and one in the chamber. It's like, looks really very very believably
right.
realistic.
It is correct. So all of the magazines, all of the guns, every bullet that they're firing is accounted for, and it's correct. All the reloads are correct. I only know this because I listened to an interview with Chad Stahelski, but also I think Josh from LSG was talking about it too, who's an ex-Marine, and he was breaking it down too. But like, yeah, it's incredibly, it's a lot more intricate and more well researched than you would take on the surface. You know what I mean? There's actually quite a lot of work that goes into these movies,
right?
And by the time we get to the fourth one, the cinematography is so striking and gorgeous.
Yeah,
like you can tell that Stahelski's worked on these movies, and he's like, by the time we roll down to the fourth one, it's absolutely perfect. Like the gunplay and the choreography and where he moves the camera and how he edits it, it's all stunning. Like it visually, yeah.
It's kind of funny because, like, in the same way that you or people have conversations about what A24 is doing with horror, I mean, like, John Wick is doing that with kind of action, and it's like
Definitely
elevated the whole genre to something more. And that's not to say that there's not still bread and butter, meat and potatoes action movies that come out that are fine, but they're not fucking John Wick. It's like this shit, you can't escape it now. It's for you have like your diehards and stuff, but I mean, I think Die Hard's probably the longer running one. You always have like Terminator and Rambo and stuff, but they all kind of suck ass like after long enough. But it seems like John Wick is just constantly hitting them out of the park. It's not like, I mean, everybody's got like a preference, it seems, in which ones, but it's not like, we don't talk about this one. You know what I mean? Like everything seems like it's actually pretty up to par.
What I'm curious is to see how this franchise does without Stahelski at the helm. So Ballerina is directed by Len Wiseman, who directed the Underworld movies. He directed Live Free or Die Hard, the 2012 Total Recall movie. So, some questionable action movies. And it'll be well, yes, but look, I remain like, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm also still like, man, like those aren't, like action-wise, they're very choppy.
No,
they're
not at all.
They're not as in control as Stahelski is in these four movies. So after John dispatches these guys, he calls for dinner reservations, right? But before we get that, sorry, we do get the police officer arriving at the door. Really cool shot of him, like the silhouette of him at the door with the flashing lights in the background. By the way, really cool.
Agreed.
But again, just you're telling story through dialogue, but through very limited dialogue because you're telling the history of these guys, right? Like that,
right?
Like just through maybe 2 or 3 sentences. Hey, John, are you working again? Afraid so. Like like it's just like, oh shit.
It's
like
not like
him
coming up to the door going, hey, is this like that one time last year where you killed like 20 people? Oh, let's talk about that. It was just the door opens, you piece together, you already know he's in trouble from the flashing lights, but then when you open it up and he has the first words out of that guy's mouth isn't, oh my God, get on the ground. It's like he sees the dead body and starts talking to John. You're almost immediately like disarmed. You're like, oh, okay. Like this isn't actually he's not in trouble here. Less is more is so applied in many of these entire movies. This entire franchise is a very let's try less is more and see if it works sort of thing. And I'd say a majority of the time it's what makes these succeed so well. If Keanu had more lines like what you said earlier in this, Soheb, it wouldn't have been the same movie.
Completely agree. And then right after that, John calls for dinner reservations, right? These waste disposal guys. These guys are cool. This old guy looks like like some kind of Undertaker. Not the Undertaker, but like some kind of like
Oh, hell
guy
yeah.
who's in charge of like a cemetery or some shit. He looks like a Grim Reaper type.
It's Warriors come out to play.
Right.
David
Yes.
Patrick Kelly, I think's his name.
Yeah, is that him?
He's a great actor.
Are you sure?
That's 100% David Patrick Kelly. Yeah, he's old. Yeah, he's definitely up there.
It is him. It is him. Oh my god, I didn't even realize that.
Oh, I saw it immediately. I was like, oh yeah, that's all I can see is like Warriors, The Crow. Fire it up. Fire it up. That's like all I can fucking picture for that guy.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even realize it is him. That's wow. That's crazy.
You know, Keanu Reeves is also in this. No, I'm just- what? Oh, you talking about Ian McShane? Oh, yeah, great actor.
By the way, not one moment of Ian McShane in the first 40 minutes of this movie.
Right.
Him or his eyeliner. It's very It's how do we make it so long?
So dinner reservations, they clean up this place. But like what I was gonna say about these guys were like, man, these guys like one guy's got like a squeegee and shit. Like he's like like they absolutely they got like some fucking saran wrap and like one guy's probably like, you know, Windexing the windows and shit. Like you got basically a whole crew of Consuelas from Family Guy in here.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if Consuela cleans up dead bodies, you know? Like Consuela, I need you to take care of those 12 dead bodies. No.
Yeah.
She might though.
Mr.
I mean, she looks after
Superman,
the Fortress of Solitude, right? I mean, she's
Yeah.
Yeah, she's gotten some pretty big contract gigs lately.
I thought it'd be hilarious if, like, because the first like 4 or 5 guys that come in are just these huge dudes. Like, wouldn't it be just hilarious if they just came in and started eating all the guys? Like, they just ate the bodies. Just these big, they're all a bunch of cannibals.
Right. So, Vigo's consigliere gives him the news, and he says, "Put the wolf. Oh, sorry. Put yourself in the red circle and wait." Right, and he's like, "All right, we gotta call in. We gotta call in the guy, the Green Goblin himself." Right.
Mm-hmm. Godspeed, John Wick.
Godspeed, John Wick. Yeah. What's his name from Platoon? God damn it. Fuck.
I can't remember. I haven't seen that in ages.
Great movie.
Other than Willem Dafoe? Other than Willem Dafoe in Platoon? Who are we talking about?
No, that's it. Platoon.
No, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe. Yeah.
Are you just talking about his character's name in Platoon?
Elias?
Like Archer?
Elias.
Yeah,
yes,
Elias. That's it.
Sergeant Elias. And he's got the scene that's like mirrored in Tropic Thunder where he gets shot and
Yeah.
I heard him talk about that like a week ago or something. That was actually it was interesting to hear him talk about that scene. I know we're getting really off track, but it's like one of those Hollywoodisms where it's way more to the scene than you think sort of thing, but also like it's like, you know, it's just such a blink and you forget it, sort of like you blink and it's already like shot sort of scene in a movie. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, man. Willem Dafoe's got some very interesting roles throughout his career, and I love when he just shows up, even if it's a serious role or like an action role or something like this. And not to just dive right into it or just plow over any like immediate thoughts you had coming into this, but there's just such a good sense of friendship and like purity between Willem Dafoe and John Wick's character throughout this whole thing. Even as Vigo is contracting him, like Willem Dafoe's character accepts it not out of excitement or out of like even duty. It's really out of like respect. It's like, well, like if it's just so interesting that he could have gone to so many, and you know, collectively throughout the entire series, there's many people that come after John Wick, but I can't really quite remember many others that is contrary to go after John Wick like this. And then by the end of it is still the entire time was the same guy who was at his wife's funeral. That's what I really like about Willem Dafoe's character in this.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because like here we are and Tarasov is putting out a $2 million open contract, right? And he's meeting with Marcus in person saying, look, I know you guys were friends, but you know, he's going to go. And Marcus considers this. Marcus is like, okay, is it exclusive? And he's like, no, it's open. I want this done as soon as possible. And Marcus takes it on, right? One quick little thing. I love that Tarasov gets the vegetable juice and he smells it and he looks at it and he's just, no, I'm not having any of that.
Nah, no thanks.
Yeah.
Love it. But then we get
Also, just want to point out that the way that John has his shit hidden in the basement, I really love how Willem Dafoe just has almost
Under
like a
the
switch in
stairs.
everybody's house. He's just like, all right. And he like opens up under a staircase, lays out a nice cloth over his grand piano so he doesn't scratch it
Right.
up, and starts like calibrating his sniper, so to speak.
it's awesome, man. We get John arriving
Everybody
in New York.
like in this like culture has that focus. Sorry. Everybody in this culture like really, it shows that like the people that are at this tier do all have that level of like their own like specific focus and precision and efficiency and how they do that job and in broad daylight sort of thing.
Well, yeah, it's cool because like the suiting up moments in these movies are pretty cool. Like, I mean, there's a great one in the second one where John visits this
Best
guy
one.
called the Sommelier. Colin, played by the guy from Shaun of the Dead, the roommate. What's his name? The Darth Maul.
Oh,
that guy.
Peter Serafinowicz.
Yes. Yeah, it's so good. It's awesome, man.
And dessert?
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
it's such a great scene.
So John arrives in New York. He goes to the Continental. This is the Flatiron Building, in New York, I believe.
Oh yeah. I saw this. I've seen this
Yeah.
1,000 times in movies.
Is this not the Daily Bugle
Yeah.
in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, or am I incorrect?
Shit, it might be. I don't know. I know it's been used in about
So many
10,000 things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John arrives. He meets the concierge, Sharon. Interestingly, Sharon was the name of his wife in the original script. I don't know. I don't-
Interesting.
I don't know why they changed it or what the significance of that is, but obviously, it's our boy, right? Rest in peace. He's awesome, dude. He's just got
Lance
such
Reddick.
a great
yeah.
He's got such a great presence.
Presence.
Yeah. So John meets what would you call this? Is it the red circle? This like bar sort of area kind of.
The nightclub, the Red Circle, is that what you're talking about?
Is that what it's called? The red circle? Am I just?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or is the red circle like the lower basement part where like the bathhouse and stuff is? Because
there's a red circle on the outside of the entire club when they walk in, and it's throughout the rest of it. So I'm pretty sure it's the name for that. I mean, if you see the building from the outside, it's gigantic. That is a humongous club. Like, that's a really big club.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Also, I cannot go past Miss Perkins. Jesus, put the Perkins. Jesus Christ.
Adrienne Palicki.
Good Lord.
First time I saw her, she was in the pilot of Supernatural. She was part of the whole thing that kicked that entire thing off. She was Sam's girlfriend, and then she gets fucking burned alive on the ceiling. But yeah, she's smoke show. If you haven't seen her in G.I. Joe Retaliation, goddamn, smoke show. She's in this like red dress.
No one's hot enough to make me watch a G.I. Joe movie.
Even Dwayne The Rock Johnson, man, those titties. Come on, man.
Nah, especially.
I think that was made before he became an asshole, but anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, John talks to Winston, the manager, played by Ian McShane. Ian McShane, always awesome, man. Just reliable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Deadwood?
100%.
Yeah, another person with great screen presence, and I have no Deadwood experience.
Yeah, neither have I.
What are you, 14? No, it's a shame because Ian McShane really kind of elevates a lot of the stuff that he's in, even like the David Harbour Hellboy. He's in that, and I like the scenes that he's in. It's just such a strange way he's used in it.
Tell you what, he doesn't elevate the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie. God damn it, it's so bad.
Oh, really? That sucks.
So bad. But yeah, so McShane breaks this down. He says that there is one rule that cannot be broken, and that is no business on continental grounds, right? Which is kind of cool. It's pretty awesome. I like the idea of this like safe haven for all of these fucking assassins. It's sick.
Yeah, I really dig it.
Vigo finds out that John went back to the Continental. His guy says that there is a contact there who's willing to take him out for us. Obviously referring to Perkins, but then again, I just love like the respect for the rules, right? Because Vigo's like, wow, how brazen, right? So the penalties for breaking the Continental's rules, like, it's probably death, right? It's probably the most grave penalty that could exist.
Sure. Right. It's got to be the payment that which all of them live by. It's like the death is the currency. They're fucking hitmen.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And he doubles, like, if they are willing to break the Continental's rules, he doubles the bounty, right? Meanwhile, John meets this absolute smoke show behind the bar. Goddamn. Just
another one. Good lord.
Good lord. Feels like there was some history here. But she
immediately, it's like one of the only people that is actually like physical with them. Like she gives him a kiss on the cheek or something.
Hey,
Nobody
John,
else
how's
in the
your
movie
cock?
really like that.
Yeah. She's like, fuck. Good if you weren't all over it. Jesus Christ, lady. Back up. My wife just died.
She died like an hour ago.
Yeah. Like, for fuck's sakes.
God damn it. But it's okay. She had a baby with fucking Tom Brady, so I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, she lived happily ever after. She got that Patriots money.
Right. The Bill Belichick money. So John goes to this club, and this is where this is the shit, right? How do
I would say out of any of these action scenes, if there's one thing that we need to talk about in this whole
Kevin Nash,
preparation of what did you say?
Well, I had to say it out loud for Patrick, who might be listening to this, who's a wrestling fan.
Okay, yeah, we.
It's Kevin Nash standing at the door, which is the bodyguard, who
the Russian himself.
Oh, that's why he's
right.
Okay, that's why he looks so familiar.
Yeah, the longest yard, whatever, wrestling. Yeah.
So we said this in the beginning, and I alluded to this in the beginning, that John Wick, just in general, you can't almost see any action film now and not see some type of John Wickness rubbed off on it. I would say this is easily, I think, the scene that when they got done watching the entire movie, I think in post-production and discussing it and started talking about sequels, I feel like this is where they took the majority of their notes for the rest of the movies, but in a really positive way, just because of how well this entire like sequence of him going through the red circle hunting Yosef down is a culmination of great action sequencing, the cinematography here, the way the light show is going off, and it's also just this very dynamic building that there's different environments to each level. Like they go into this like super clean locker room that's kind of like half brick, like old mortar and brick, but like also super modern. And then they're later in like the bath area section of it. Then they're running through this really like modern like
an elevated sort
like
of platform.
Nightclub. Yeah, all the glass stairways. There's like, which is a theme throughout a lot of these movies. There's a lot of very modern, minimalistic like glass stairways in a way, but all of that. There's no other scenes that perfectly sync up to this. The fight scene in the house is a little dark sometimes because it's kind of later at night and there's people that are coming in like half lit rooms that are trying to hunt him down. And then he's fighting Yosef's dad, whatever, in the rain later. And that's like its own weird sloppy fight. But of all the action scenes, I just feel like not only is this the one that they really woke up and like did the research and made sure that they nailed it, but it paid off for the other three movies and now all these spinoffs that are coming, where this is the template that they use for, the other three movies very similarly follow this. Even when they're on bleak, dreary looking streets, I feel like there's just so much cinematography that elevates it, that I think they learned from specifically this specifically this red circle action scene in the first movie. I think lends credence to the rest of the franchise in a major way.
I think you're 100% correct, because this is a very defining moment of this franchise, is to put John in this very public, very loud, very gorgeous looking location, because in the sequels he's also put in the same situation. So he is all in the second one. The third one doesn't have a nightclub sequence, but the fourth one absolutely does, where he's fucking up dudes in the middle of fight club in the.
The third one has what I like to think of as the Skyfall sequence, where they're in a glass floor of a building, and there's a lot of light shows that's going on. It's just like Skyfall, essentially, where he's fighting the sniper in China. Yeah, it's like that. That's my version of it. I still think it's a little there, but you're right. There is no, I guess, nightclub scene in the third one.
No, but I mean, like, every time I look at this movie and I look at this franchise, this is the thing that comes to mind. Like, it's a very colorful franchise. It is. I mean, obviously, it's in darkness. It's not like Batman, where it's it's all about darkness.
Right,
it's very,
but it's very awash with gray, you know, but very colorful at the same time.
Very colorful. The colorful, like the purples, the blues, the reds, as you mentioned, Colin, like that shot of him coming through, like the platform. Like, we can take this whole sequence and just we won't break it down, obviously shot by shot, because it's so long, and it is a giant action sequence. But like, it's stunning. Like, my favorite part of this entire sequence is how they use music. Like when they blast up the music or turn it up is when John really starts to get to work, and like his posture as he moves through these guys, and how he extends his arm to like aim and fire, and his elbows are all the way up, so he's in like a ready position, and it's again, just balletic, Colin, what did you think about this sequence?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it helps live up to like the hype that they've been kind of pushing the whole time, that John is just the boogeyman's boogeyman. And I enjoyed it. I love any kind of like nightclub kind of fight scene. It reminded me of the Dark Knight coming in and fetching up Eric Roberts, or even in like the Batman. Like, that is an incredible scene that it reminded me of. It's Pattinson going into that club, and there's this red lights, and he just starts fucking those dudes up. I love it, because I wish it was a little bit like darker, but I get it. They want the choreography on full. The choreography is the star,
right?
They really want that. They really want that front and center, and I think that's wise to do. But I wish, like, stylistically, maybe it was just like a little bit darker at times, a little bit more like, you don't see every single little movement.
Colin just wants to see silhouettes, like it's just like pitch black.
I love the kind
lights.
of I love the kind of implied violence at times, where it's like Dark Knight Rises, when it's like
you're not gonna get implied violence in this.
No, like, I'm saying on top of all the stuff, like, because eventually it's like, okay, I think if they did the violence a little bit more stylistically at times, it wouldn't seem so fucking redundant by the end of it. It's like, okay, Jesus Christ.
I get what you're saying. Well, hold on. Did you get to the end of this movie and you were like, the violence is redundant? Because if you get to the end of the fourth one, you'll be like, put me out of my misery.
It just, I think it just gets a little, it's so hyper action that, like, at some point it's kind of like, man, I feel like I am drunk with that shit, by the end of this movie. Like, I enjoy it, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind at some moments where they don't, like, again, the violence is just kind of like implied. Like, I love what they do. Like, not for like, oh, it's too much violence. It's just like, no, I don't mind violence in a movie, but it's just like, if they could change it up a little bit. Like, I love the moment in The Dark Knight Rises where it's like he's in the tunnel with that guy, and that guy shoots, and every single time Batman is just in a different spot, and it's like, that guy just had this awful fate. Like, even something that small, I think, would go a long way in a movie like this, of like, God, I don't even want to know what John Wick did to that guy.
I'm gonna push back on that just a little bit. I think there is a little bit of that, though. Like, when they kick this sequence off, right? Like, we kind of get aftermaths of John fucking the guys up in the bathhouse, so we just get like splashes of red, against like a wall, or like, like there is a couple of moments of implied violence before we get the the big shootout, if that makes sense, I think. Right before he meets Yosef, like when we get in there.
I mean, I think there might be brief touches of it,
But not
but
enough?
it's just so no, not enough to where it's like it's just drowned out by everything else, which is it's fun and it's enjoyable to watch, but after a while it is kind of like, okay, like I get it. You know, I get it. I'm glad it's only an hour and 4. If this were 2 hour 15, I'd be like, holy
You will
fuck,
not have
man.
a good time with the sequels then. I'm just gonna go ahead and yeah.
If they can do it in different ways and stuff, it's like, okay, it's enjoyable, but it does kind of like you get the gist of it after about the first half hour, you know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you just don't like action movies.
No, I mean, it's kind of like I don't know. I feel like there's a kind of like code. There's a formula to these, and you figure out the formula pretty quickly. It doesn't make it any less enjoyable, but it's not something I want to watch for prolonged periods of time, if that makes sense.
That's fair. It's wrong, but it's fair. No, but I mean, like there are moments in this where it's like, okay, man, like that is 100% worth talking about. Like, for example, when he gets fucking thrown off the ledge and it's just
oh, yes.
There's no cut in it. Like, there's probably a stitch in there, like, you know, in terms of like editing, but like you follow him down.
He eats that ground.
Oh, dude. It's brutal.
It's rough.
Hurts my back just thinking
Very
about
brutal.
it.
Just a side note, I don't know how much more we're going to talk about this, but I do love how they give it a little bit of reality where he's not just knocking everybody down. He does have like, you know, like mini bosses almost throughout the levels where he doesn't just get to the guy who's it's like Yosef's handler. I'm going to call him that. But you know, earlier in the scene, Yosef wants more bottles.
Right.
Like he's like, come in here and drink with us. He's like, I'm not drinking with little boys. I'm having to protect you, you dumbass. Like he doesn't say that, but it's basically like you don't quite understand the danger you're in.
The big Jack dude
and
in the fucking.
He is big. I'm telling you guys, he doesn't look like much, but when you get him next to Keanu Reeves and he starts fighting, you realize that guy is stacked. Like he's tall. Right. And to see him throw, I love that he throws some very tall kicks towards Keanu, throws him off the edge. He has to come back and contend with that guy later too. It's like in the later movies, I'll be honest, they do a little bit better of a job pronouncing those like demi bosses. I don't know what you want to call them, like you know, like sub bosses leading up to the main boss of the whole thing. Like in the later ones, it's significant characters. Like Common is later in like in some of the other movies, like he is like kind of like that guy where you have to contend with them and you just don't go through them, and you don't also probably beat him the first time either. Like you have to come back, keep dealing with this guy over and over again. And if he would have been, I'm sorry, there's probably somebody out there maybe who's watching this. It's like, no, that guy's in a lot of stuff, but like I don't recognize him from shit. But they pick up on that trend to do it later with like very key famous people throughout the rest of them, to the point where you're like, oh, it's actually kind of like who's like the cool guy in this one sort of thing. So
I just want to mention very briefly, one of these goons is a guy named Tate Fletcher. He's kind of like this guy with a beard. He's got like a mustache kind of going up.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
he's in
just by name.
He's in so many things. He was in very recently The Mandalorian. He played a character named Paz Vizsla. He's like a big jack Mandalorian with a minigun.
I thought Paz was Jon Favreau the whole time.
No.
Who's Jon Favreau's character in The Mandalorian?
I don't think he's got a character.
I thought he was in one of the suits earlier in the seasons, but I know who Paz Vizsla is by name, so I didn't know that was that henchman with the bearded.
That's a guy.
Interesting. Cool.
I don't know if Jon Favreau's on screen in this, but in that. But anyway, I don't know. I'm just too busy not falling asleep in this season, to be honest. But anyway, let's move on. Let's get to dude, Yosef running across the street into the car. I'm just like, dude, it would be fucking funny if that towel just fell. He's running butt ass naked into the streets of New York. But yeah, Victor's not here anymore. Just love it.
Everything has a price, bitch.
Love it a lot. John gets back to the Continental. The doctor is in. This doctor
The Keymaker
Danny knows.
from Matrix.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, the Keymaker.
Oh, cool.
Really cool little Matrix dog.
I love that character in Reloaded.
Mm-hmm.
I know people hate that movie, but man, I love that
I'm
character.
too busy looking at Monica Bellucci in Reloaded at that time when, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Fair.
I
I mean,
forgot she's in that.
Dude, that was my awakening. I remember watching that movie with my father in 2001, 2002 in cinemas, and I was like, it must have been like 9 or some shit, and I was just like, oh my god.
Your fucking dick's poking a hole in the bottom of the popcorn.
Dude,
I gotta,
dude, yeah, why
Dad, take this.
my dad's like, why is the popcorn like 5 feet in the air? Oh man.
Someone thinks highly of themselves.
That's 5 feet highly.
Let me get.
There's an entire 4 chapters around Zohab's dick. It's chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and the first 30 minutes is that 5 foot raise.
She can verify.
Well, once you go black, then you go deaf. No, there's your second Family Guy.
You're gonna need a wheelchair. Anyway, let's go. Let's just get going, dude. Jesus Christ.
Oh my gosh.
So the attack in the Continental, right? This is Perkins making her way in. I love Marcus warning John, right, by shooting the pillow.
Yeah, it's very cool touch.
Interesting.
Great touch.
I did not want to believe he was going to blow his brains out. I was like, really? I was like, it's going to be easy. I wonder what these other movies are about. Like,
yeah, it's not even John Wick.
I also like how they're it's just called John Wick, but
yeah,
I love how it's almost like he knew, and it doesn't come to this, but it's almost like later, in case somebody said like, how come you didn't take it out? He could have a little bit of plausible deniability and be like,
right.
No, like if you go back to his room, I shot him. He just happened to move right when somebody else was coming in, and like
if it hadn't
you
been
could
for that
almost
bitch
pass
walking
that
in the
off.
door, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always interested.
So it's not like a sloppy job. But what's up?
Oh no, I was just gonna say something. So I was gonna say I'm always interested in action films when a man is fighting a woman, like both very I guess in the story they're very proficient. Like in this, it's very brutal. Like you can see like actual, not actual punches being thrown, but like the violence being depicted is man on woman, and it's it's impactful, right? But there are times when you can see that they are shying away from it a little bit, like him wrapping the tablecloth around her head, and making it seem less like a man hitting a woman. My favorite example of this is in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, when they're kind of like getting down and dirty in the house in like the big shootout scene, and Brad Pitt throws Angelina Jolie behind the couch, and the camera just like you see him kicking, but like she's out of the frame. It's such a little like, oh yeah, they really just didn't want to show.
We shouldn't show like a guy beating a woman, sort of like an open.
Right.
I think there's always been that trepidation in film and just general.
My position is that women should get beat up in films. Sorry. Yeah, in real life.
Well, I mean,
that's a whole different.
I think it's from watching Fury Road and seeing Furiosa swap licks with Max, is just like, yeah, that's great. Like she gives it just as good as she gets it, and I like that. I like that a lot.
I think that's. I mean, obviously, I feel like that's where Zoheb. That's where we're all thinking, right? It's like you don't want this weird thing where it's like he comes into a slappy fight whenever she enters the room. Like she came there to kill him, right? And like there ends up being like definitely an altercation from it. But you're right. I always thought it was weird how she pulls her leather jacket and puts it in her mouth to keep from screaming or making so much noise. But really, with the rest of the fight, it sort of looks like Keanu Reeves is fighting somebody with like. You know how you would play a joke on kids, or like you'd play a joke when you were younger, you'd take your sweater, you duck your head really low and you throw it over it and it made you look like you're headless. It sort of looks like he's fighting like a headless person for like 20 seconds of this scene before it ends.
They do kind of like correct this a little bit though, because like in the second one when he fights Ruby Rose, it is brief, but it feels very very brutal. And like at no point do you feel
Yes.
that they are shying away from the man on woman violence in that movie, in that moment.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, Ruby Rose gets it in that one.
Yeah.
All 5 feet. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's so funny because I've always really liked Ruby Rose's accent. I mean, like I'm obviously Australian, so and she's got like an Australian accent, but like it's a very different Australian accent. It's very like it's a little Americanized. It's like a bit of a mixture. And then they just make the choice of her not talking in that movie. They're just like,
yeah,
she's like using sign
That's
language
funny.
and shit, and I'm just like, God damn it.
Do you think that's a tool they determine whenever they're like, let's try and go through this with the dialogue, and afterwards they try it once and they're like, let's take out the
this lady
7-minute
sucks.
speech for
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves and just make him go, like let's have him do
Well,
that instead.
it is interesting. That's something I'd actually kind of like to touch on a little bit because in the second movie, in Colin, just we're not really spoiling this, but we are talking about these characters from
You
the
keep
sequels.
saying that.
I don't think it's a spoiler.
Just
We have been saying that a
I'm
lot.
kidding. No,
Despite
you
us
haven't
saying we
really
weren't going to
ruined
spoil
anything.
the fourth one, we've been really, really hesitant to talk about it in the second, third one. I think just because we're worried Colin might see it and give it room.
No, I think
That's
you
how much
guys
I
are
think
in the
we
line.
feel like you may like them,
But
Colin,
it is
because they're
his
just
fault.
that.
I mean, like
The
they've been out
story
for
building
fucking
goes
years,
better
so-
and better.
Right. It's been 9 years.
So,
So,
what I wanted
yeah.
to talk about,
Aside from 4 full-on spoilers, just say
what
it.
I wanted to talk about was that Ruby Rose's character in the second one is a mute, right? Like she doesn't talk. In the fourth film, and this is in the previews and stuff, so it's not a spoiler. Donnie Yen's character
Yeah.
is a blind character, and John
Shocking.
John feels like he's on the spectrum a little bit. I'm not saying that he's like, like he feels very. I don't know, like the way he talks in the sequels, it's like he's struggling to get words out, or maybe he's, I don't know, like maybe
I need a gun.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that line in the fourth one, it cracks me up. I love the movie.
I know it's a choice, but like my point is the series kind of like shows these characters who are missing a sense, or I'm not saying disabled, but like they're kind of like propping them up in like the best ways possible, and I fucking love it. I'm here for it. Like in terms of just like it's so awesome that a blind guy is absolutely crushing it, and a deaf woman is this thing to be feared.
The right hand woman to the right hand to God, I can't even think of the guy in the second one's name.
D'Antonio?
But he has the blood oath with D'Antonio. Yeah, so like to be the right hand man of them. And then who were you talking about in the fourth one? Oh yeah, Donnie Yen is of course very revered, very revered in that movie.
I just like
for
the
many
respect
reasons, so.
that they're paying to people who are somewhat otherwise disadvantaged. I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
So John manages to get some information out of Perkins. Perkins says that this church is a front. And then like hard cut to like John arriving at the church, and Colin, you must have cheered at this moment, dude. I know I did. Just him.
Oh yeah, watching a bunch of Catholics getting hell yeah.
Him walking up to the padre and just absolutely fucking kneecapping the motherfucker. Oh
yeah. Take that, Cardinal Law. No, it's an inside joke for anybody. I was just blown away because it's just. I kind of wanted them to be like, oh, you wanted the church across the street. He just like fucked with the wrong church. He just like went in there and killed a bunch of random people. And he's like, oh, fuck. Like
he goes downstairs and there's a bunch of kids eating instead of like a safe. He's just like, show me the safe.
The dwarves of the underground starts annihilating them, thinking they're criminals.
Now, I did want to mention, I know we kind of went past it, but Harry. Harry is this guy who is also at the hospital. John gets Harry to look after Perkins. Harry might be best known for The Wire. He plays a character named Lester Freeman. He gets it, man. He gets it right in the face because, man, I tell you, Perkins just straight up like dislocates her thumb, and it's so cool because like when she does it, it cuts to her face, and she doesn't even like react to it. Like she's just like that was not painful at all. That was normal.
Yeah. Harry gets the old the sweet pillow kiss goodnight.
The face ventilation. That's what he gets.
The old Italian pillow.
Why is it Italian?
I don't know. Just start making. Oh yeah, the old Scandinavian throw rug.
The old Swiss cheese face. That's what he gets.
Yeah. The old Ethiopian cabinet.
The old guess what's on the other side of this pillow game.
Yeah. The old getting shot in the face.
The old
just something that's like real. You go so far like crazy with it, it goes back down to just like the old putting a pillow over a guy's face and shooting him in the head.
The old Smith and Wesson kiss goodnight.
The old dislocating your arm.
Oh, baby. All right.
Man, I think we've given more names to this game than I think he had screen time or lines in the movie.
The old Lithuanian buyback. No, all right.
Can we keep talking about how John just goes to town on this church? Because we need to talk more about church massacres.
It is a very small, very quick scene. But I feel he takes out like 5 people in less than like 10 seconds, and then he's just back at work.
Dude, John walking away, not even like watching Tarasov's money burning up. He's just walking away. It's just it's so cool. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, these guys probably have the easiest job. Who the fuck is A, gonna hit a church, and then B, gonna hit a Russian mob boss's like safe, his stash? Nobody's gonna come in here and fuck with that. These guys probably haven't shot a gun in like years.
Right. But as John goes to leave, like he gets ambushed by Tarasov and his men. Again, just John going absolutely apeshit. Here's my thing. I love John using his pistol. It's fucking awesome. But like whenever John picks up something more dangerous, like a shotgun or like a assault rifle, it's just like, oh my God. Like it's fucking wild, man. Like we'll talk about that moment when he gets the pump action shotgun that looks like a space weapon, like something out of Star Wars or some shit, but like it almost doesn't even look like a shotgun. Right.
But yeah, good point.
But him outside fucking these dudes up, and like he runs out of ammo, and I'll never forget in Modern Warfare 2, like when you're starting that game up and it's like that training, like when you're in the training field, and it's like, remember, switching to your secondary is quicker than reloading.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that's exactly what he does. He runs out of ammo here in the assault rifle and he switches to his sidearm, and I love it. Oh, it's so good. But he kind of gets blindsided, right? He gets hit by the car, and he gets captured, right? And then we kind of like get this moment in this church with Tarasov and John. Danny, talk to me about this scene, right? This is the I'm thinking I'm back scene.
Maybe some of if we could keep coming back to how much dialogue he has, but some of the most dialogue, and maybe I'm okay with there not being a whole lot of scenes like this, because every time that I rewatch this, him just being like, yeah, I think I'm back, it's just really feels like but it's almost like at the same time, kind of something you were alluding to earlier. I don't know if you said it like this or if my brain read it like this, but it's like they have to lean into this, because if they try to be really serious with acting, I think it would take away from this movie. Like, if they were really, really trying to be put on like Oscar-winning performances here, I think it would actually detract from it a lot. There really is a simplicity and the less is more approach to them just delivering these lines in, like I said, it's weird. Like, I'm almost like not crazy about how he delivers these lines, but as I replay to my brain, I'm not sure I would have this I can't really think of another way that this would go down that they haven't already done in the movie. We've already had conversationless conversations. We've already had words with incredibly few conversations with very few words. And then all the other boogeyman shit in the first 30 minutes where it's a lot of like alluding to his legend. So now you finally have to have that moment of, all right, well, let's sit you down and like show the dog what he did and like really, really talk to him about it, sort of thing, before you punish him. But I in the tropiest way, I love how he's like, my entire past couple days have been making sure that you're dead, and now that that's happening, I'm going outside for a smoke. And then he leaves.
I shouldn't
whenever,
have even
Willem
really
Dafoe
captured you in the
says-
first place. I should have just shot you in
I
the
really
parking
just
lot.
wanted this. I just really wanted to sit in front of you and go boogeyman really, really like that with my head over and over again, because that's my favorite part of this scene.
So
it's just him getting in his face, squatting down, and being like,
Danny, what you were saying
It just cracks me
about
up.
the acting, Keanu is an interesting guy in terms of like, there's always been questions as to whether he can act, right? I mean, like a lot of people look at Coppola's Dracula and say, oh man, Keanu wasn't really good in that. You know what I mean? Or like,
He's so young.
he is young. And like, you get The Matrix, and like The Matrix isn't it's not an actor's movie. Like that's more of like a premise driven technical
High
marvel.
concept.
Yeah. And would you say that this is the same then?
I would say this is the same, but like in that sort of like same way that I was saying, like that this is like a fable. He is delivering larger than life dialogue, and it should be delivered in a larger than life way, and it fits. Like this isn't like you said, this isn't a hoity-toity Oscar drama. People know what they're coming to watch with John Wick, and it's larger than life action storytelling. And I think this is, say what you will about the quote acting, but this is incredibly memorable. Your son took that from me. Your son stole that from me. Your son killed that from me. Every time I've been asked whether I'm back, I'm thinking I'm back. This is incredible. This is actually really memorable.
I think from us speaking about just in this entire podcast about the mythos behind John Wick, that I think by the time we actually get to this scene, we've talked about it so much that maybe that's why it loses a little bit of like momentum for me. And it's like, but at the same time, I guess the way that you're describing it, sort of being like that, I don't know if I'm twisting your words in a weird way, but it's almost like a necessary, like, I don't know, not evil, but it's like this, it can't be the hoity-toity Oscar-winning thing. It's like, and you're right, they do know what they're coming here for. It's not like, this scene really picks up whenever it's really intense the whole time because you're like, wow, like how is he really actually finally going to get out of this one? And I love the pace that it picks back up on whenever Willem shoots to save him. It has this really cool panning shot of piecing together, not like Wanted, where it's like a 20-second shot, but it is a very cool, like it shows how methodical he is, that he was like across the street through a window. He shoots it penetrates the window, hits the guy. He's got this huge thing out of his head because of like how big of a caliber of weapon this is that he shot him with. Basically like a hole hanging out of his head sort of thing.
One thing that I mentioned quite a bit. Sorry to cut you off. Just really, really quickly.
No, you're good. I was rambling at that point.
No, that's okay. One thing that I mention all the time on the podcast, and whenever I post my reviews on Facebook, whatever, is my favorite thing is when a movie knows exactly what it is. And the directors know what it is, the writers know what it is, the actors are all in on the material, right? They know exactly what they're making.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than a movie that doesn't know what it is and it outstays its welcome, and it's like, oh man, like this just feels brutal. And in my opinion, this movie and all the movies in this franchise know exactly what it is and what the audience are seeking when they sit down and watch this movie.
Then I think that's why that dialogue scene works for me, but I don't pick it out or it doesn't detract from the movie, but it's definitely one of the things that sticks out to me is like, I don't know. Well, you can definitely tell this is some of the earlier movies.
No, definitely.
Just based off of that.
Just
based off that that transaction alone.
Also, I love the lighting here. The orange glow. It's all beautiful, man. But yeah, like you said, Marcus ends up saving John, and I mean, why? It's just one of those action things of like, why does Tarasov decide to put a bag over his head then just execute him point blank? I don't.
Right.
Just one of those things.
Right.
Yeah,
Movie
just-
stuff, you know.
Movie stuff. But I do.
I shall now watch you
Suffocate.
maybe die, but I have to go
Smoke a cigarette.
smoke a cigarette. So you take care of it, mini boss.
I tell you what, though, I
Yeah.
do like John getting the bag over his head mid-sentence sort of thing. It's the only time that you see someone...
Oh, yeah.
It's the only time that you see someone interrupt John when he's on some kind of flow or some kind of like rant or some kind of like, thing. But yeah, it's awesome. He ends up executing this guy, takes this fucking science fiction shotgun, which is a real thing. I remember it being in one of the Call of Duties, this pump action.
The AA-12?
This isn't the AA-12. It's not.
Ah.
Yeah,
It reminded me so much of it.
Because the AA-12 is fully automatic. This one he has to like pump.
Right. That makes
This
sense.
is something else. It's definitely been in a game, and I'm pretty sure it was a Call of Duty, but this thing's wild, man. But the shot of him getting up on the hood and just blasting the driver, and dude, Tarasov's
just shitting his pants, man. Oh, shit.
I could smell
You know,
it.
I
I
love
could
that.
smell it through my screen. like okay.
I really thought he was going to kill him. I was very surprised he didn't, in all honesty.
I'm glad that he didn't. It really, I don't know. It would have, maybe would have made sense, but at the same time, it shows his focus is not. It's not. Great line.
It would kind of break
It
that
shows that he
code,
really, Yeah, he didn't get distorted. His goal and objective didn't lose focus. It's like if he would have killed him, and then it's like, oh well, like John's just gonna kill everyone that gets in his way. It's like pure respect. He's like, I'm looking for your son, and then I love how he goes, you promise I'm out of this. Like,
Well, that's it. You mentioned it. It's pure respect, right? Like very much like how
I'm a man of my word.
Yes, very very much like how Vigo is out of just a sense of duty doing this because of his son. John is sparing his life here because he knows that Vigo is doing this out of duty because he is a Russian mobster in a place of respect, and people hold him accountable for his actions, and he's like, you're not the objective. Your son is the objective. And I'm going to find out where your son is because you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
And boy, does he.
So he gives his son up, though.
He does give his son up, right? I just love... Oh, man, Vigo's so good. Michael Knuckles is so good right here. Like, he's like, shit! Like, he says it.
Yeah.
It just makes me think that they really had somebody rehearsing that line going through the actual motions of it, because I don't feel like somebody would script that on paper if they were trying to imagine it in their head.
It does feel
they'd
very...
get out of the car and be cowering. They would get out of the car and run. They would get out of the car and be too scared to talk.
And not only someone, but your
culmination.
villain, right? Your guy who's supposed to go toe to toe with John is someone that is cowering to this guy.
Shit, like that's all you could do at the end of the day,
But I'll tell you what, when you give up one of your children, you should immediately go home, roll a fat one, and absolutely get barbecued because that's what he does, man.
Yeah, he made those wedding arrangements roasted. Wedding arrangements. Sorry, funeral arrangements. My bad. I'm getting a lot of dinner arrangements things mixed up here for real things that they mean in this, but yeah.
All this murder, my son's death, and I still have to plan the wedding. I think, it's weird. His dad is almost like a frat boy, where he's like, "Fucking pour one out for my dude," and like pours the beer out. I'm a fucking roast one for you, Xander. Yeah.
It was nice of Tarasov to put his son up in Chernobyl. What looks like Chernobyl, because this place looks...
Yeah, it gives him the warehouse where they fucking hunt RoboCop. I don't know what the fuck this place is.
What better way to ensure that your son is safe from all angles than to have 400 angles to worry about at the one fucking building that he's in?
It's okay though, Danny, because he's probably going to die by tetanus. Like, have you seen this place? Jesus.
Yeah, right. This guy's playing on like a early Call of Duty map. Like, I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah.
Why not put him in like
Overgrown.
Wichita? Let's get him the fuck out of the state, like, come on.
Yeah. John absolutely goes to town, right? I love snipers. You know, I never play them in Call of Duty because I'm terrible at them. But like, anytime a movie focuses on snipers or whatever, it's awesome.
It does feel like the shadow man or like rogue agent mentality, whether you're just a sniper in a war or like the sniper in these movies. It always just feels like, where did that shot come from? Always like, how did they always have more information than you? Like snipers always feel like they have the upper hand sort of thing.
Can we talk about...
I want to point out, real quick,
I wonder if we're gonna...
I don't know if anybody else catches this, but every time I rewatch this, his buddy gets shot, and I swear the Grand Theft Auto wasted a sound effect goes off when he gets killed. When his buddy is sitting there playing the controller and he goes, and it hits him in the head, I swear it's like that same like iron. It's the same noise and everything, man. I feel like there's a tiny ode there to GTA.
It's actually the one slow motion moment in this movie that I don't like. It feels I don't know. It looks like they're missing frames or something because it doesn't look as smooth as some other slow motion.
It is too slowed down. I agree. Like Alfie Allen, Theon, Joseph. God, I'm going to call him every name but his fucking name in this movie. That one's also very slow, but that's been leading up to it. I mean, are you talking about his friend's death?
No, his friend's death. The one playing
Joseph's
the game.
Death.
The one playing the game.
The friend's death is a very weird, like drawn out slow mo. It almost does seem like it's like skipping in a moment, but yeah, I guess I wonder if they played that scene in normal motion and it lost its touch, where it's just his friend's dead again, and he's like, "Oh no!"
Well, what I thought you were going to bring up was,
yeah, what was that?
So he's playing the video game, and Joseph's like, "Can you stop playing that game? Can you stop playing the game?" And we're hearing the sound effects of the game, but he's also got headphones in, so it's like, is Joseph hearing the sound effects of the game because he's got headphones on? So.
Oh, I bet you his friend
is
doesn't
the TV
seem like
volume
the type of. Yeah, he's a motherfucker that I'd have the courtesy to mute the goddamn
in the background.
TV.
So it's like,
yes, if you've played online with people, he's the person that has a headset on and has his volume blasting and is playing like rap music in the background.
Nobody wants to hear you in your 0.3 KD, brother. Shut the fuck up.
No one wants to hear your fucking children in the background doing wrestling moves and shit. All right, like come on. God.
Turn your fan off the mic. Jesus Christ.
Right.
I think there's a huge era of people. Before there was an era of Xbox Live parties and and however PlayStation deals with that, there was just nothing but open lobbies and open mics. But I'm not sure if people now have to deal with that so much.
Turn your goddamn Pet Shop Boys music off. Like, I can't deal with it. Just
Pet Shop Boys.
But it's okay because you're gonna
never have been in a lobby with somebody playing Pet Shop Boys. I'm not gonna lie.
It's fine though because you're gonna
Hey, can you turn that? Can you turn your Beach Boys down? I'm having a little too much fun here.
I was just about to say Beach Boys.
Well, don't worry about it. You're about to be called the N-word anytime soon. On the fucking Jesus Christ. With a hard R.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not even the friendly. Not even the friendly one.
Right. And there'll be a
it'll be the one with the hard
friendly
R.
one.
Right. There'll be a mom joke in there somewhere,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
But I think we've really summarized the other action scenes. I love how we've really discussed them, which it really is not whole much to dissect in them at some point.
Look,
I think that there are tremendously more standout action scenes in the other ones than in this one in terms of being able to the other ones. It's almost harder to relate the action scenes. In this one, it's like, oh, the red circle is easily probably one of the cooler scenes.
Right, but we've discussed
it's almost
this.
Just cleaning
we've
up.
discussed this on the podcast quite often. It's tough to talk about action sequences because how do you break them down? It's the same as...
And then he shot that gun.
It's the same as
wasn't
comedy,
that cool?
right?
It's
we're not going to go and run through a joke, right? And determine the efficiency of a joke or whatever. But there are individual moments in this that I'd like to point out. For example, when he blows up the cars, it looks awesome, man. The camera shakes and you feel the impact of the explosions. And then when John eventually corners Joseph in these between these containers, John them slowing down the footage and amping up the volume of John's footsteps so it feels like the Grim Reaper has arrived.
Dude.
Yes.
Yes.
It's awesome.
It's fucking gnarly.
When
the fading away as he's walking away from it, Yeah, he completes his task and just moves right on. He doesn't sit there and revel in it, sort of thing.
Well,
he didn't even have the respect to watch him die. He just shoots him and walks off.
Well, yeah, Yosef, like, in mid-sentence, right? It was just a fucking, and then bang. Like, Yosef didn't even know why he died. He didn't even, like, come to terms with what the significance of it was. It was, it's awesome, man. It's fantastic.
I agree.
But we move on. Right, like Yosef gets he bites the bullet, and then what kind of happens after that? Like we get Marcus, we get
Well, there's a little bit of cleanup, but Willem Dafoe's character and Marcus and John end up meeting, and if they wouldn't have met in public, I almost think you could have maybe even cut out a huge chunk of this, because it's because of that Perkins connects Marcus to the reason that John is any level of success up to this point.
Right.
So, meaning that, now Marcus, now there's more, like, the whole thing is like loose ends. Actually, this entire franchise is kind of about loose ends in a way.
Right.
And this opens up a loose end that they can't help but avoid having to deal with, which is confronting, what's Yosef's dad's name? The main villain in this? I can't even remember his name in this.
Vigo.
Vigo, thank you. So whenever Vigo is having to, I lost my train of thought while I was going there with that. Sorry, keep going.
Great podcasting, Danny. I love it. I'm kidding.
Yeah, my bad. I forgot. I have the movie playing in the background while we're still talking about this. So I'm thinking about Vigo while I'm also seeing different things happen to him.
Vigo calls John and says, "I appreciate you giving my son a swift death." Right, which in itself is incredibly, it's incredibly dark, but like, I really love it being in there.
Up to par with the respect.
Yeah. And then Vigo kills Marcus, right? The last of the old guard.
Mm.
Well, I didn't catch that.
I wonder how he knew that he wasn't actually taking the shots on John, though. Like, it was just like, dude, come on. I know you. You're friends with John Wick. He's probably just as good as John Wick. It's like, how did you fuck up that many times and not get a chance,
It might have been Perkins sort of like relaying it to him, because like Perkins was there at the Continental. She's like, how did he know? How did he know to
right? And then she's there when Marcus gets killed. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
So then we are fast approaching the end of this movie, right? John arrives at Marcus's home to discover Marcus's dude. Like, they don't fuck around with like the corpses in this. He got fucked up. Like, Dafoe got fucked up. And then Perkins bites the dust, right? In this kind of really memorable sequence. Again, I've always loved the cinematography in these movies and how symmetrical they are. So like the shot of Perkins in the middle of that sort of like, I don't know what it is, like this sort of like fountain square thing. And then these four guys come up.
That's in Central Park in New York.
Okay, there you go.
That's like that structure is like synonymous.
Right, because there's
Central
there's a scene at the end of the second one where he meets.
That's right outside of that at the fountain. So that's the exact same location.
You know what's fucked up?
I've actually been there. He pulls up in the car. Yeah, that's funny. I was like, I have been there. Maybe he didn't go there. But yeah, if in the second one, whenever John Lance Reddick pulls John up in that super nice like Bentley or some shit, they're actually on top of that. I think on top of that structure. Technically, you have to like go under it. Yeah.
I'll tell you what's really inefficient though. Getting four guys to stand in a square and aim solely in the middle.
I thought about that too. I would have laughed my ass off if they would have just shot each other a little bit.
All four of the guys just fall and Perkins is in the middle. Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, they all shot each other.
She just ducks. They all start shooting each other.
I mean, like one guy would have done.
Winston's walking away. Isn't even aware that she's still alive. He just thinks that they're like walking away with him.
A dead white lady in Central Park. No one will notice that.
It's like the end of Collateral. Like, no one notices a dead guy on the MTA.
Yeah. Good call.
We got your guy. What's his name? Fire it up. Fire. You know what he is from as well?
Charlie.
You know what?
Long Shard.
He's in Commando.
He is, yeah. I'm telling you, that guy, man, he works.
Please,
Which one?
please
Who is he in Commando?
don't kill me. Don't kill me. You know what did he say? You know, I said I'd kill you last. Yeah, I lied. that guy.
Okay. Oh, that
He's
is
such a creepo in that movie.
Yeah,
dude, he has such a hey, let's go back to your place and watch the neighbors through the window.
Yeah.
See,
he's definitely a character actor for sure.
And then we kind of get our final sequence, right? In this, what is this, like some kind of like dock? Like a dockyard?
Yeah, it's like, I don't think that the helicopter can come straight to my building to pick me up. We better give John an opportunity to kill me one last time. So how about you land a helicopter at those docks, and then I'll drive over to those docks and meet you at those docks.
Really cool vehicular stuff. Anytime they break out the cars in these movies, I'm 100% on board, man. Like the Dodge Challenger, I think it's the Challenger that he gets gifted.
It's a Challenger.
Challenger.
Oh, never mind. Oh, Charger.
We don't actually they don't sell Dodges here. It's not a thing.
That's weird.
Yeah, we don't have them. So we don't have the Dodge Ram. We have a Ford Ram. Because I guess Ford owns
and how do you
Dodge.
say Nissan?
Nissan.
That's so weird.
I went to go watch Air the other day, you know, the Ben Affleck one, the one about the Air Jordans.
Right.
And because the story is all about like how Nike came up and rivaled Converse and Adidas. We say Adidas. But also in that movie, they recognize that Adidas is the wrong way to pronounce it because the guy who founded Adidas was a guy named Adi Dassler. So Adidas, I don't know. It's not Adi Dassler.
It's too foreign. Nope. Make it American.
Yeah.
No.
It's not Leviosa, it's Leviosa.
Off topic, Adi is his nickname. His real name was Adolf, but let's move on.
Oh, yeah, they were German. I forgot about that.
But this is awesome, man. Like, dude, Vigo fucking around in this scene, knowing that he's about to die, is the best because the consigliere is the one who's like really trying to kill John and like trying to like, you know, he's very much into it. And
I love how he just so casually hands him a gun.
He's playing around with him
like,
and shit. Like he doesn't give a fuck.
Frantically trying to figure out what to do. And yeah, Vigo's just very casually barrel first, trying to just be like, almost like you dropped a tool working on a car. Did you drop this? It's like, that's the level of urgency Vigo has versus his, the vulture is what I keep calling him in here, who is just freaking out.
when the cars tip over the thing and like fall into the sort of like the dock, that sort of like a drainage area, you really feel the impact. They do a good job with the like portraying the weight of these cars and how heavy they are. But yeah, so Colin, what do you think about this sort of like final fight between John and Vigo? Because Vigo is he's not a physical, I guess, match for John. And I think the movie knows that because this fight's not like a big protracted action scene. It's more about like he does surprisingly hold his own, but yeah.
Do you think that has any, do you think that lends any, sorry, Colin, do you think that lends any credence to maybe just that it's taken, we're at the end of the movie and he's basically fought everybody else in this mob. Like if he would have fought him at the very beginning, he probably would have taken him out like within a couple hits, right?
He's been through the fucking
I feel
ringer.
like the only way that they can make this a realistic fight is that John had to go through the ringer before he got up to the next step to fight you, sort of thing. Otherwise, I don't think that this fight really makes a whole lot of
like
sense.
Like versing the Elite Four and then getting to what's his name right at the end, and what's the guy's name in Pokemon? Well,
you go through the Elite Four and then you go and then you always I think in some games you always face who it's technically the player from the last game you played. Right. They're the champion, so you have to face the champion again. But this even doesn't feel like that, because in the champion in those games, at least they still have really good Pokemon or whatever. It's like this feels more of like you go through the champion or you go through Elite Four and the champion, and then after you get done, like your friend who's never played before is like, "Oh, are you finally done? Do you have a chance to battle me?" And it's like, "Yeah, we can battle for a second. I'll show you what I can do." It's like you're a little tired or whatever, but you're still probably going to kick their ass, sort of thing. I don't know if that's a better way to describe it, but I know what you mean.
So John kind of like lets himself get stabbed so he can break his arm.
Yeah, strategic.
Yeah, a strategic stabbing, as we say in the.
Yes,
Colin, talk to me.
Yeah, I liked all of it. Like Danny said, it does seem kind of like, all right, I guess the movie has to end on something like this, and the son is, if the father is not a formidable opponent, the son is just God. I mean, he's nothing. So I feel like there has to be, you have to have some kind of final boss fight, but at least it's short. I don't mind the fact that I don't mind it because at least you get the sense that they both kind of like know they know each other, and that it's a fight. He's like, be seeing you, John. He's like, yeah, be seeing you, and like that's just the end of it. I think if it went on for 15 minutes, yeah, I'd be like, for fuck's sake. But the fact that it's pretty quick, but but I definitely felt me checking my watch by this time where I was like, I don't really need this to end this movie on, I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
It's really interesting because I think the sequels actually fix this. This is the only quote big bad that John hand-to-hand fights at the end of the movie. He doesn't fight D'Antonio at the end of the second one. He doesn't fight the lady of the high table, the representative in the third one. He doesn't fight the Marquis at the end of the fourth film. So this is the only time where he goes sort of like hand to hand with the big bad at the end of the film. And I think Stahelski does listen to criticism, and applies it in the best ways possible. Very much unlike some other movies, like I guess like The Rise of Skywalker or whatever. Like this is the best time, or like this franchise is the best example of criticism has been heard. Our next one will be much better. Our approach is, we'll fix our approach.
That's good.
But yeah, I think, and this movie finishes very strongly and very, I wouldn't say abruptly, but in a very good place in terms of just like,
concisely.
And John fixes himself up, heads to an animal shelter, adopts a new dog, right? And then we kind of like close it off with like him pretty much where the flashbacks of
with adoption and heavy quotation marks, by the way. Let's just say that.
Right. No papers.
Yeah, he just stole somebody's dog from the vet.
I mean, They'll have made it seem like he went and got fixed up, and then he also was like, I think I might adopt somebody on the way home. But if you've never seen this movie, it's like he gets stitched up at the vet, and then on his way out has an emotional connection with like a dog that he basically takes. But let's be real, like unless they were being boarded there and that was someone's dog, that's hopefully a pound, and he was rescuing, right? Like, but
I mean, you'd hope so. But I think it's really beautiful that the movie ends with John walking away with the dog in the same spot where he and Helen, or where Helen collapsed.
Good catch.
That was a very sort of like full circle moment that I really enjoyed. And then that's it. That's John Wick. Produced also by Eva Longoria, which is weird.
The fuck?
Yeah. I just thought that was really strange.
What? I never caught that. That's weird.
Yeah. I mean, she was a smoke show back in the day.
I'm like
She's still a
rewinding the
smoke
credits
show.
now.
Sorry, but
back in the day.
That's awesome. She is like a businesswoman in the whole scheme of stuff, so it doesn't surprise me that she had her hands in something.
She's a
like
woman,
this,
all right.
But
anyway, so
I just never once heard or even thought about her discussing this. That's so interesting.
And that's it, baby. That's John Wick. Wrapped.
Nice.
Wrapped. We are wrapped.
I tell you what, I will read off Jose's comment if that's cool. I think it's the one comment we got.
Thanks
Jose
for commenting,
Rivera,
Jose.
MVP, VIP, of the MDF. John Wick was something I heard people talk about, but I didn't get to see it until my birthday in 2015. You know, sometimes people can talk about a movie so much that it can't possibly live up to your expectations. Yeah, I think I kind of touched on that earlier. Not the case for John Wick. This movie blasted any and all expectations I had. This reminded me of the action movies I saw growing up. No shaky cam, lots of gunplay, and some clever world building. The first film must seem quaint compared to how big the rest of the series went, but you know what other franchise it reminds me of? Mad Max. In both cases, you have a similar, grittier first film that comes out of nowhere and changes the landscape of film. Then the sequels come along and get bigger and crazier. Both have upcoming spinoffs, too. We'll get The Ballerina with Ana de Armas and Furiosa prequel with Anya Taylor-Joy. It has been a pleasure seeing how one small film that got everyone talking turned into a new staple of the action genre when we really needed one. It also shows Keanu is the rare actor to have more than 2 successful franchises under his belt. He went from being Ted to Neo to John Wick. That's pretty good. That's a good comment. Thank you, Jose.
That is great.
That's awesome.
I agree with pretty much all that. That's pretty cool.
Love you, Jose.
Jose knocked down a lot of things that I think a lot of us said, especially you two, with the with just it being a good action movie at a time when we didn't really have a lot, and that was really well said, though.
Yeah, and he was able to do it in less than 3 hours.
Hey man, 2 hours 22. Where
especially for John Wick, that's going to be a big one.
And you know the runtime does blow out when there are more hosts on, so whatever. Is what it is.
Well, yeah, that and it's even though it's an hour 40, it's the impact of the movie is impossible not to talk about.
And we did talk about the sequels. I can't see us covering another one of these movies. I mean, you know, maybe eventually, but like maybe as a bonus episode because.
Maybe like a watch along. That would be a lot more fun.
There you go.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Be good. All right, guys. We're gonna go ahead and head out of here. We can go ahead and record our Rise of the Planet of the Apes episode. If you do want to listen to that, head to patreon.com/midnight double feature. Again, it's $5 a month. If you did like what you hear on this episode, you get much, much more of that on that feed. Patreon.com/midnight double feature. You can check out our social media, social platforms. If you want to join in on the conversation, it's happening at the after party on Facebook. But again, you can reach us out anywhere on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can also email us midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. And you can also check out our website, which has merch and all that shit. Danny, anything else to say before we head out of here?
I like the light that this movie gave us at a time, like Jose sort of alluded to earlier, and a lot of us have been saying that this is exactly the kind of touch that we needed in this genre at a time, and I'm really glad we covered it, man. A lot of great unknown little things that I think most people wouldn't even think to expect in this movie. The humor, how well it's done, the build up paying off. It takes some. You know, you walked out of the movie 15 minutes into it the very first time. There's risks that it takes even from people that love these types of movies, and I just like how it all pays off. I think you have a really good point on maybe the other three. It would almost be just the same copy and paste discussion on the style, how they improved it, you know, things like that. But us covering the first one, I think, is a great way to summarize how the entire 4 movies that they've done so far have just had really great quality, and I like that. Love that we covered it. What's your thoughts, Colin?
It's good.
Cool.
Tune in next fortnight when we're talking about fucking werewolves and vampires and shit. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, something way more interesting. No, it was fun. I'm not a huge action movie guy. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I think it checked off all the boxes of like, it was interesting. It was a kind of a spin on the genre where it wasn't just like, I never really watched an action movie like that before, where all these wide shots and continuous shots and this constant moving, you know, even though by the end I was a little like, okay, I get what this movie's about. Like, it just because it felt like the movie had to. The ending almost seems kind of rushed in a weird little way. I don't know, but other than that, I mean, there's not a shit ton of criticisms I have for it outside of my own personal preferences. I think that objectively, it's a very good film. It's shot incredibly well. The choreography is something not to ever be forgotten about, because I'm sure it took thousands of hours to perfect all of this, and especially over the course of the entire series. So I think it's a fun movie. I'm glad that we covered it, and I'm glad I can probably kind of check it off my my bucket list.
Awesome. Yeah, this was a fun cover. I really appreciated this movie.
Yep.
Over time, as I said, first time I watched it, not that much of a fan, but then the second one doubles down on this movie and absolutely perfects the formula going forward. 3 is it bites off a little bit more than it can chew, but it might have the best half-hour opening sequence of any movie ever. Like the first half hour of that movie is just adrenaline, and it's incredible. But I thought the pacing in 3 was just really, really off, especially towards the end.
Yeah, too long too.
But interestingly, 4 is the longest movie in the franchise, and it doesn't feel like that at all. Like it's insane. It's insane how you can just, like, by perfectly pacing a script, you can really tailor someone's experience, and it's 4 is an absolute well-oiled machine of a movie, and features some of the best cinematography in the franchise. But this was absolutely fantastic to cover. I'm glad we broke into this world of John Wick. I'm glad we talked about Keanu Reeves, Chad Stahelski, about the action genre in particular as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and head out of here. Colin, Danny, say bye to the guys.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks for
See you
listening.
next time.
Jesus Christ. But at the same time, see you guys.